differing points of view on current political topics. And due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dom, we've got a tremendous show lined up. It starts immediately. Sarah Pearson, state co-chair, Women's March, Wisconsin, and Peter Isley, a survivor of childhood clerical rape, he works with the Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests. Today is the day where candidate for Wisconsin Governor Matt Flynn faces the music. He will get his opportunity at 4:06 today. He'll be in studio with my little buddy Dominic, and also Andrew Seidel, Freedom from Religion Foundation, John Weishan, a Milwaukee County Supervisor, talking legalized marijuana in the happy hour. Sarah, Andrew, welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show.
Thanks.
Hi.
Hey, thank you for coming in.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Now, let's start. Both of you would describe yourselves as survivors of sexual abuse. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
I got to ask you, I'm finding myself in a weird role here, so let me do the best I can. Matt Flynn, obviously the target of your objection. And, sir, I can certainly understand why you would take objection to Matt Flynn, who defended the Milwaukee Archdiocese. Sarah, I'm less clear why the representative, the co-chair of the Women's March of Wisconsin, would specifically advocate for a guy like Matt Flynn to drop out of the race. Can you help me understand, why are you on this campaign?
Sure. So, I mean, first of all, I guess at a campaign, it's more of just a social campaign. It's not a political campaign. I don't work for anybody. I'm a survivor of sexual assault, and in Women's March, we have a motto that we say, no one is safe unless everyone is safe. So as victims of sexual assault, we need to stand together. I've known Peter for a little while, and I was familiar with the Matt Flynn story involving his role in the Archdiocese sex scandal prior to the announcement of his campaign. So when he announced his candidacy, I was frankly pretty shocked that was something he was willing to do, given the baggage that he had from that case. So frankly, again, I'm shocked that he's come this far and that it hasn't been more of an issue. And I think I reached a point just in my own personal journey where I was like, with the Me Too movement and everything that's going on, we can't stand for this. We have to do something. We have to do something. So, I mean, that prompted my response. I read the Wisconsin Gazette article, and I knew that it was time to start seeking some answers. And I looked at some more of the documents, and it was at that point I was like, I'm done. Well,
Sarah, full disclosure, we made your acquaintance through the Women's March here in Milwaukee. We broadcast right here on Resistance Radio. You helped us promote that event. You were here at least a couple times. Here's the question. Trying to play devil's advocate best I can. Why Sarah Pearson might advocate against Matt Flynn is up to Sarah Pearson. But why the organization, Women's March of Wisconsin, when you make these statements, you're doing so with your organizational backing. Did you have to seek someone else's consent on this? Is this something that you have the consent of the organization? How does that work? How is it framed through the Women's March of Wisconsin?
Absolutely. So, I mean, we're a new organization. We're in the process of applying for a 501c4. I mean, so we will be able to be political and make endorsements and do all of those things. But we have a board formation. We have a structure within our organization. So, obviously, when these things had come up, I had spoken with the group about it last fall. So, I mean, they were aware of it as well. And we met as a group. We talked about it, and they were on board right away. They saw the documents. They read everything that I did. They listened to some of the testimony of survivors, and they had no reservations about signing on to that at all.
Well, Sarah, I have no reservations about your personal advocacy. Matt Flynn was questioned by press. As I understood the reporting, NBC 15, I believe, said his response to calls for him to jump out of the race, to resign from the race, however you want to look at it, was to say, go jump in a lake. We know that Matt Flynn is the first Dem gubernatorial candidate to qualify. I mean, it's essentially he turned in his 4,000 ballot signatures, will be the first to qualify. He's not leaving the race. So knowing that you've got a guy who's not going anywhere, what's the future look like of this conversation if Matt Flynn is the first one on the ballot?
We'll continue to make our call for him to drop out of the race. It doesn't change anything. I got into this not for political reasons, not for a candidate. I got into it because it's the right thing to do. I'm a survivor of sexual assault. I'm working with another survivor of sexual assault. So we had no reservations about calling for an end to his candidacy because he's not qualified to be our governor based on his role in the cover-up of the child sex abuse scandal within the Archdiocese of Milwaukee.
How about just simply advocating for a different candidate in the race? There are plenty to choose from. Why not just advocate for someone you think's a better candidate than Matt Flynn, someone to defeat Matt Flynn effectively?
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's aside from the point. I mean, I haven't made a personal decision about who I'm going to support yet. But for me, it's not like the personal is political. I was kind of listening to, I forgot what your slogan was in the beginning. but the personal is political. So this issue is more important than that to me. I mean, there are plenty of other qualified candidates who share the progressive values of Women's March. And I know eventually, as an organization, we'll be able to make a decision about who to endorse. This isn't about an endorsement or advocating for a candidate. It's about advocating for what's right and protecting survivors of sexual abuse. And that's why Matt Flynn cannot be our governor.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network. Sarah Pearson, state co-chair of the Women's March of Wisconsin, and Peter Isley with SNAP, Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests. Peter, I want to bring you in on this conversation. You're quoted here in the Wisconsin Gazette piece saying that you were shocked and that Flynn engaged in a scorched earth policy. Expound upon that, if you would, please. What was your experience? Did you have any personal experience with Flynn in this case?
Well, first of all, I've been doing this a long time. It's always difficult to talk about. I was sexually assaulted and raped as a child by a priest in this archdiocese. They knew about him before he came into contact with me. And there are thousands of victims of these priests. All told, in the Milwaukee Archdiocese, there's, their list is 50, but on court records that are still sealed, it's like 170. And what Matt Flynn did is that he was their chief corporate lawyer. And this was, as is 10,000 pages of documents show incontrovertibly, this has been proven how many times, this was a system-wide corporate policy to conceal and hide child sex offenders in parishes, and then move them to new parishes where they continue to abuse children. And that's what happened when Matt Flynn was their corporate lawyer. When he was there for 15 years, from 1989 to 2004. And when he got there, as the records show, we're talking about priest files now, internal secret priest files that were court-ordered released in 2014 by the federal court. What you see is that there were some 50 priests when he got there that were in ministry that had histories of sexually assaulting children. And during that 15-year period, what did he do? For many years, most of them remained in their parishes and in ministry, years after he took over as their corporate lawyer. Then a number of them were transferred while Flynn was their corporate lawyer. I don't mean one and I don't mean two. I mean like 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 priests with histories, confirmed histories of raping and sexually assaulting children. I mean, I would urge people to read these files. I mean, I just, last night, I'm up till 5 in the morning reading these again. A little girl who's 7 years old, and the priest tells her, and this is told to the Archdiocese. She comes back as an adult, and it's like, this priest who's in ministry, and he's got all these other reports they don't tell her about. But he's like, I went to confession, and he told me that, the priest told her as a 7-year-old that for penance, this is what you're going to have to do. I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to put it in your vagina for repentance. And it's story after story like this. And it's just horrendous. So he's their corporate lawyer. He has all of this information, right, about all of these dangerous predators. And they're left in ministry, or they're transferred, or they're left in the priesthood until Matt leaves. So the claim he continually makes that there were no transfer of priests while he was lawyer for the Archdiocese is 100% false. And we've got to deal with these lives. I know individuals that have killed themselves. They have taken their lives because of what happened to them. So I tell you, from our point of view, why are we even having this discussion? Why are we even talking about this? It's incredible. I understand 10,000 page of documents, it's pretty tough to go through. I mean, they're tough to go through. But all the evidence is there, all the facts is there. Sarah just brought up one case to him about Father Aramond.
There's several more.
There's many, many more. Who Matt pays off. Quarles and Brady paid him off, and other predators. Instead of firing them, they paid them off with church money to go and find other jobs like Aramond did to become a counselor for children. And let me be very clear about what the record shows. Before Flynn paid him off, he had obtained a license as priest to work with families and children in Wisconsin. Then Flynn pays him off to get rid of him. He tells the Archdiocese, the priest, he tells Matt's corporate, the people that are paying him, the head of the church, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go work with children. And off he goes, and that's exactly what he does. He only got his license yanked because a reporter found him in 2002 and where he was, down in Racine.
Matt Flynn, according to the article, will say that, hey, if he's been too aggressive, he's simply providing the best defense for his client.
The record shows, okay, there were victims that filed cases in the 90s, civil cases, negligence cases, against the church because they had really, really good cases. And in at least 3 of these instances, they had to drop their cases. And people don't realize this. They had to drop their cases because Matt Flynn argued before our Supreme Court. Okay, this is progressive Matt Flynn. He argued before the Wisconsin State Supreme Court, no priest, no religious organization can be sued for negligence for sexual assault of children, even when they transferred the priest and he assaulted that plaintiff. Not in Wisconsin, because of the First Amendment. It would interfere with the practice of religion.
Now, my understanding, Shirley Abrahamson went along with that ruling.
No, she did not.
She did not.
No, that's not my understanding at all. She has consistently opposed these church cases when they come to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. The point is that victims had to drop their case based upon this First Amendment decision, which I might add is the only one of its kind in the entire United States, making Wisconsin the safest place for pedophile clergy in the United States. If you're a clergy person who wants to assault a child, I would suggest you come to Wisconsin and do it.
Folks, we are the Devil's Advocate. Sarah Pearson, State Co-Chair, Women's March Wisconsin. Peter Isley, a survivor of childhood clerical rape, working with the Survivors Network of those abused by priests. We will be right back.
I'm afraid right now for the future of my children's generation and those to come.
In this age of mass school shootings, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker offers the same bold agenda of the National Rifle Association.
Make sure you remember in your thoughts and more importantly in your prayers.
While Walker offers platitudes, he blocks meaningful gun safety legislation.
It's really an honor to work with the NRA, not only in my state, but across the country. And I'm proud of my A+ ranking as a governor.
Walker weakened the gun laws in Wisconsin, and then he got $3.5 million worth of NRA support.
There have been men and women of courage who've been willing to stand up and think more about the future of their children and their grandchildren than they thought about their own futures.
Scott Walker, you are not one of them. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Hi, I'm Becky with Bounce Milwaukee, a progressive, local, family-owned entertainment center. We just want to remind you what it's like to be a kid again. Come on in for all ages fun. Bounce in our giant inflatables, race up the rock wall, dominate your friends in laser tag, or just relax in our bar or our massage chairs. Open 6 days a week with extended adult-only weekend hours. Find us at bouncemilwaukee.com.
In the wake of a disaster, what one thing can you send that will help people the most? A blanket, a tent, a sandbag, a doctor. Actually, if you send a monetary donation, you send all these things. Even a small donation can make a big impact and can quickly become exactly what people affected by disaster need most.
In the wake of a hurricane, your monetary donation can make a huge difference to those in need. To donate, visit supporthurricanerelief.org. That's supporthurricanerelief.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
I was on Zero Res Madison's Facebook page the other day, and they have almost 2,000 testimonials from local customers. Apparently, I'm not the only one stoked on how cool this company is. A green technology that actually works better and doesn't cost more. It's a no-brainer. I'm in. We are starting our own Devil's Advocates revolution to free your carpets from harsh chemicals and soaps. Call Zero Res today and ask for the Dom and Crute special 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
For too long now, Wisconsin's education policy seems to have had that the teacher had to step out for a minute vibe. Educators Amplified is back in session this Saturday. Join us for Educators Amplified, the gubernatorial edition, where will our next governor stand on teacher demoralization, standardized testing, vouchers and charters, standards and licensing. These questions will be answered this Saturday from noon to 3 at the Miramar Theater. Come join us live, 2884 North Oakland Ave, or listen right here on 1510 AM Resistance Radio. Educators Amplified, Gubernatorial Edition, brought to you by Busted Pencils Radio, The Earl Ingram Show, Schools and Communities United, WEAC Region 7, Citizens Action, AFT Local 212. So if you're tired of education in this state having that the teacher will be back in a minute vibe, take action this Saturday. Educators Amplified, right here on 1510 AM Resistance Radio.
Ignacio, what do you got for us today?
Hey, I quit paying attention for like maybe one day, and all hell breaks loose. That goes to show me I got to pay attention every single day to your radio program, or else who knows what'll happen.
If you don't listen to the Devil's Advocates 3 hours every day, Nacho, you're missing a lot.
You got that right. I just learned that today. I turned it on and I'm listening, and you really just rocked my world today. I was just totally blown away.
Save the $2 on tomorrow's paper. Listen to the Devil's Advocates today.
Totally blown away.
The Devil's Advocates, tackling the issues you're not allowed to talk about at the dinner table.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show live on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, also streaming on YouTube and Facebook. And if you missed any of this fine program, please go online. You can download podcasts and interviews at domandcrute.com.
Dom, short on time, want to continue the conversation. Sarah Pearson, state co-chair, Women's March Wisconsin. Peter Isley is a survivor of childhood clerical rape and works with the Survivors Network of those abused by priests. The topic today has been the candidacy of Matt Flynn and his connection, his defense of the Archdiocese. Peter, back to you. We were talking about a few issues during the break, and I guess I'm going to ask it open-endedly because I know you think some things are important for the audience to know. What do you think is important for people to know, Peter?
Well, just following up that, that Flynn went after those victims and they had dropped their cases for court costs, where the offender admitted that he had assaulted that child, put a lien on property and their house.
And Peter, you think that was effectively financial retribution against the victim?
Well, first of all, it's not the money. The money for the victim was huge, $17,000, $20,000. That's like a couple hours of billing for Flynn. So it wasn't about the money; it was retribution. It was to make sure that no victim ever shows them their face again and attempts to challenge the Archdiocese legally about what they're doing. Period.
And Peter, you also made a statement during the break about the actual fee settlement with the lawyers that effectively the Archdiocese lawyers got more in fees than the actual victims collected in a class action suit.
When Flynn had left, they already had done that. I mean, the lawyers were making more money than all the compensation for victims. And then in the bankruptcy later on, and it's Flynn's activity, what he was doing, that actually brought them into bankruptcy, because they were in bankruptcy for fraud, for concealing child sex offenders, transferring them and not notifying the public, which is exactly what he did for 15 years. So I don't see that as a big success. It's a success for him as a lawyer, but it was a disaster for the Archdiocese. And in that bankruptcy, church lawyers got more money than all of the 575 victims combined.
Wow. Sarah Pearson, I want to give you the last word. What are you hoping will happen with this candidacy, and what do you want people to know?
Well, I hope he drops out of the race. We've called for an end to his candidacy, but if he doesn't, I hope he gets no votes. I hope that people listen to what we say and they understand the severity of his role in the cover-up scandal, and they choose to vote for someone else.
And Sarah, as a fiduciary, speaking on behalf of Matt Flynn, as an attorney who's going to say, again, I repeat it, just doing his job, how do you respond to that?
If he wanted to do his job properly, he could have come out ahead of the scandal. He could have prosecuted the priests who were bad and then protected priests who were good. But he didn't do that. He let this go. He was negligent. And even if it was his job, what he did was morally reprehensible. It is not the kind of character that I would like to see in the next governor of Wisconsin. So that's why we've called for an end to his candidacy.
Well, thank you both for joining us here on the Devil's Advocate. Sarah Pearson, State Co-Chair, Women's March Wisconsin. Peter Isley from Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests. Coming up next, we've got Andrew Seidel. He's the Director of Strategic Response, Freedom from Religion Foundation. Come back, more Devils.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Challenge your authority, because that's what kids do. But this car is your territory, and in here, your word is law. So when you say you won't move until everyone's buckled up, you won't budge an inch until you hear that click. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. For more information, visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup.
Open road, here comes the Heffley family.
You've packed the smartphones, headphones, tablets, water snacks, cooler, sunscreen, bikes, skateboards, games, videos, sunglasses.
There's no room for people in here.
Just don't wimp out on the most important thing.
Deep fried butter on a stick.
No, seatbelts. Whether it's a long haul or short trip,
it's a win-win situation.
Never give up until they buckle up. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
It's hard to dream when you're fighting for 15. This is Pizza Box Mike for Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. Check out fightfor15.org to get involved in the fight for 15.
Have you outgrown your house? Are you sick of apartment living? Not ready to buy but know you need to move? Hi folks, this is Tom Hartman for CCL Management in Middleton. You should consider moving up to one of the finer rental homes CCL Management represents. Unique houses and condos, always clean, most are pet friendly. Visit cclmanagement.com today to find your new home. CCL Management, Dane County's premier leasing and property management company.
Call CCL Management at 833-0009. That's 833-0009 or visit cclmanagement.com today.
Hello, I'm Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters Local 200. In 1903, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters was founded, and our local union was founded in 1935 here in Milwaukee. During the last 115 years, the principles and values for the Teamsters Union have made many improvements for working families, creating a pathway to the American middle class. Teamsters have assisted families and communities in times of need. Currently, our active and retired membership are collectively working to benefit working families across this nation for retirement security and addressing long-term social needs here in Madison, Wisconsin, and in Washington, D.C. American workers do have a voice in the workplace. Let Teamsters Local 200 be part of that action plan for you. For more information, please visit us on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or give us a call at 414-771-6363. teamsterslocal200.com or 414-771-6363.
Tune in to The Resistance, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. Start your weekday off with the Earl Ingram Show from 7 to 9 a.m. Next is the Stephanie Miller Show from 9 to 11. Then from 11 to 2, it's the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's 414 Wisconsin. Then from 3 to 6, it's the Devil's Advocates. Mandatory listening. Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, my name is Keith Gostad. Senator Lena Taylor says her removal from the Joint Finance Committee was a political lynching, saying, quote, "I do not believe I did anything that warrants taking me off finance." An employee filed a complaint in July of 2017 alleging that Taylor bullied her and others retaliated against her. Taylor has also been under fire for alleged use of a racial slur at a Chase bank. Taylor was told on April 26th letter to attend anti-bullying and interpersonal communication training sessions by Senate Chief Clerk Jeff Renk and Human Resources Manager Amanda Jorgensen. Tornadoes touched down yesterday afternoon near Richfield in Washington County, and in Grant County, officials said a damage path was nearly 1.5 miles long. No one was injured. Highs today in the mid-60s with cloudy skies, overnight lows around 40 degrees. Friday high in the mid-40s with chance of rain. For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, my name is Keith Gostad.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Thank you to our most recent guests, Sarah Pearson, State Co-Chair, Women's March Wisconsin, and Peter Isley, a survivor of childhood clerical rape, working with the Survivors Network of those abused by priests. I'd point out Matt Flynn, he will get his day today at 4:05. But in the meantime, Dom, got another fine guest, Andrew Seidel. He's the Director of Strategic Response, Freedom from Religion Foundation. Andrew, welcome to the big show.
Thank you so much for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew.
Andrew, thank you for responding. I reached out this morning. We found a piece at Pathos, and it's specifically about this benefit that churches give to what? The priest, the pastor, this housing bonus that seemingly goes against the tax codes. But you explain it. I'm sure you'll do a better job than I, Andrew.
Sure. So this is actually goes to the phrase in the tax code is, quote, the minister of the gospel. And what it says is, in the case of a minister of the gospel, income does not include any allowance that is paid to him as part of his compensation for housing. So what this means is that if a church designates part of a minister of the gospel's salary for housing, say $20,000, $30,000, then that is not considered income by the federal government. So it's basically just untaxed money that if you happen to be a religious leader, you can get from your church.
Nice.
So it's a pretty good deal if you can get it.
What's it come to?
Unconstitutional.
What is the value of this tax perk, Andrew?
So the Joint Committee on Taxation, which is run by Congress, estimates that it's about $700 million a year in lost revenue, which means that we, the other taxpayers who are not ministers of the gospel, are making up that $700 million. So we're effectively subsidizing religion here. And Christianity Today did a study that found that senior pastors, about 84% of them receive a housing allowance somewhere between $20,000 and $38,000 every year. So it's a pretty substantial benefit.
So, Andrew, let's talk about the lawsuit rolled out by the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Not your first effort, not your group's first effort to try and change this, but this one's never really been decided on the merits of the case, has it?
That's correct. We've tried this a couple times, and each time it's been appealed, and eventually what the courts have said is they basically said that we don't have standing to challenge this right yet. I do not think courts are going to be able to dodge in that way this time. I think they're actually going to have to reach an opinion on the merits. The federal district court that looked at this said that the law was absolutely unconstitutional, a very clear violation of the First Amendment, of the separation of state and church, and struck it down. And right now it's the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals in Chicago that has the case. So we still have to do our briefing on the case, and so there's not going to be a decision anytime soon, but in a couple of months or so we'll see something.
But there has been a very lengthy amicus brief filed by the other side. Who's on the other side of this lawsuit? I see some initials. It's like ADF.
Yeah, there are basically every religious group or church in the country has either signed on to or filed a brief in this case. That's at least what it seems like to us. And one of those groups is ADF, the Alliance Defending Freedom. And their brief was, I think, interesting as a charitable descriptor. It was... The substance of it was only about 11 pages. Very, very short on the law, which is expected because this is an easy case, as the lower court said. This law is very, very clearly unconstitutional. So instead what they did was they put 204 pages of names in 11-point font, which you're not allowed to do in a federal court filing, actually. Just 204 pages of names of people that wanted to sign on to their brief. And it turns out that they just had a web form up that anybody could go on and fill out the web form and say, yeah, I'm a clergy member and I want to sign on to your brief. And so they ended up getting close to, I think it was 8,899 names they just threw at the court.
Andrew, the state of Wisconsin has entered an amicus brief against the Freedom from Religion Foundation. In this case, Brad Schimmel, who's had his recent headlines for giving speeches to what the Southern Poverty Law Center calls a hate speech group, the ADF, anti-gay group. But why would the state of Wisconsin effectively put an amicus brief in at the hands of our Attorney General, Brad Schimmel, that actually works against the state? The state doesn't get to collect these tax revenues. And somehow Brad Schimmel finds the legal rationale to support this amicus brief.
You know, that's a good question, and I don't think there's a good answer to it. So, yes, that brief that we were just talking about was filed by ADF. They are an anti-gay hate group. There's no doubt about that. They attempt to use the law to violate the rights of LGBTQ citizens. Brad Schimmel went and spoke at one of their conferences this summer and received about $4,000 in compensation, I think the reports are saying now. And he also happened to submit a brief parallel to the ADF brief as an amicus. And as you pointed out, you know, there's not really a good legal rationale for the state of Wisconsin or for any state to be opposing this lawsuit because it means more money for the state treasury. And in concurrence, it means less money that we, the taxpayers, have to make up to subsidize this, you know, the McMansions of these mega preachers. So I think personally that my Attorney General ought to be weighing in favor of FFRF's lawsuit, not against it. And he certainly shouldn't be speaking at an anti-hate group conference. Or, excuse me, anti-gay group hate conference.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network. Andrew Seidel, the Director of Strategic Response from our friends at the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Andrew, with regards to this particular perk, you talked about these mega churches, and don't you know God wants everybody to be super rich, and even better if you can have it all tax-free. Is there any limit to what can be construed as a residence? I've seen some pretty big homes that these mega church
Joel
pastors...
Osteen has a hell of a pad.
Yeah. Is there any limit to the current corruption?
Not really. So basically, there's a couple limits on it. So one is that it says that it has to be limited to the fair market value of the house plus whatever you would have to pay in utilities. So, you know, if you happen to own a $10 million house, I don't know how much Joel Osteen's is worth, but that wouldn't surprise me.
A little north of 10.
Yeah, so there you go. You can get up to $10 million over in compensation of the housing allowance over your time with that church. They can spend the money on rent, mortgage, home improvements, maintenance, repairs, dishwashers, cable TV, phone fees, phone bills, paint, towels, bedding, home decor, pool tables, even personal computers and bank fees. There's really no limit to what they can creatively spend this money on. And the bigger the house they have, the more valuable it is, the more money they can get, because the only limit is the fair market value of the home.
Can you pay off porn stars, sir?
I don't know the answer to that. Maybe we'll find out. Who knows?
Andrew, what about kids, siblings, family members also preaching the gospel? Can anybody profit or take advantage of this particular carve-out?
We have seen a lot of extension of the phrase ministers of the gospel. We've seen instances where basketball coaches at religious schools have been declared ministers of the gospel and been given a housing allowance. One of probably your competitors, really, some Christian radio stations, a big conglomerate was actually saying that the heads of their local radio stations were ministers of the gospel because they were spreading the word over the airwaves.
Preach it, Brother Crudy.
I preach every day here, Andrew.
Hell, if we made any money, we'd have to pay some taxes, Andrew.
There you go. So it is subject to some serious abuse. Which is just another reason to shut it down, other than the fact that it's completely unconstitutional and violates the First Amendment.
Andrew, I think this is one of the low-hanging fruits. Are there any other advantages that religious organizations are currently taking that we can chip away at the stone on and make them kind of step up and also fund their own preaching, instead of having, through subsidization of taxes, everybody else and the non-believers and non-participators fund for them? Anything else that we can get after?
One of the biggest things that we see a problem with here at FFRF is right now, if you are a church, you basically just call yourself a church, and that's all you have to do with the IRS. So if you're a nonprofit like FFRF, you actually have to file paperwork every year with the FFRF that tracks every penny that comes in and every penny that goes out. It's called a Form 990. That's to make sure that, because we basically have a public trust, right? We are not paying taxes because we are providing a public benefit, and therefore the public should get to see that we are not abusing that public trust in any way. Churches do not have to file any of that paperwork. They are financial black holes. We have no idea how much money comes in, no idea how much money goes out. So even determining things like how much is this housing allowance worth every single year, $700 million, that's a very fuzzy number, and it could be considerably more than that, because we actually don't know. There is no requirement for churches to file any of that paperwork with the IRS, and that includes a lot of the megachurches, all of the megachurches, like Joel Osteen.
Andrew, I want to get one question in from our conversation in the last couple of segments, talking about the Archdiocese raping children here in the state of Wisconsin. Matt Flynn, running for governor, apparently argued before...
Priests thereof, not specifically the Archdiocese, but they felt raped by the process, it would seem.
Well, either way, thank you for the clarity, but I'd be fine with it the way it was. Andrew, I guess my question is, apparently the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled that no churches or religious bodies can be sued for negligence in a civil case because it violates the First Amendment right to free speech. Do you understand that ruling, and if so, can you explain it to me?
I would have to look up that ruling before I would want to venture an opinion on it. I'd be surprised if that's a entirely accurate summation, but then again, I wouldn't be too surprised. The idea that it's a free speech right to not be found negligent when you in fact are as an organization would be surprising, but maybe more under the religious freedom. We've seen a lot of problems with the Catholic Church, and Pope Fluffy, the new Pope, is very good with public relations, but hasn't actually done much to help stop the abuse that we've seen.
Andrew Seidel, Director of Strategic Response, Freedom from Religion Foundation. Andrew, I've got more. Can you stick around, please, sir? Can I ask you a few more questions on the other side?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
All right.
I appreciate it. Andrew Seidel, Freedom from Religion Foundation, right here on the Devil's Advocates, Wisconsin's only Resistance Radio Network. We'll be right back.
Roman Catholic? Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm afraid you can't come.
On marijuana, unfortunately, as a public health issue and a public safety issue, I've opposed that.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta, how can medical marijuana help those addicted to opioids?
There's three big things. There's clear consensus now that cannabis can treat pain. That is not an opinion. That is a consensus conclusion by big scientific bodies like the National Academy of Science. We also know that it can help treat the withdrawal symptoms of opioids. People, they don't want to be on enemy anymore. They want to quit, but they develop the terrible withdrawal symptoms. And now we have evidence that it can actually help heal the part of the brain that is diseased in someone who's an opioid addict. If you had to start from scratch and design a substance to help lead us out of the opioid epidemic, like in a lab, it would probably look very much like cannabis.
Call Governor Scott Walker at 608-266-1212. Tell him good people do smoke marijuana. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Hey folks, sexy liberal Stephanie Miller here. Most new Wisconsin jobs are in Dane County, it's true. Some of my listeners are relocating to Madison. Many already commute there. When asked where to turn for a trusted real estate team that understands Madison, I say the same thing. Solidarity Realty. They help you through the process and protect your consumer rights. They live their values building community, promoting sustainability and diversity. Find them today at solidarityrealty.com and tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
We got Mark Pocan live via phone. Mark, does Paul Ryan hate poor people?
Oh, he hates poor people and middle-class people. I mean, I think when he was probably 5 years old playing with Play-Doh, trying to, adjust the taxes on Play-Doh. So, to be fair, I think he's doing what he always said he was going to do. It's just no one actually believed he was either that cruel, evil, or dumb to do it.
The Devil's Advocates, weekday afternoons on 1510 a.m., Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
Hi, this is Brad Saug, owner of Zero Res Madison Carpet Cleaning. Zero Res is the best new technology in carpet cleaning. We have a patented process using empowered water, a high-tech process in which we force the water to act like soap. It doesn't want to stay in that state. It's jacked up and it's angry and it wants to hit the dirt and then it neutralizes. When we're done, all that's left in your carpet is just light moisture. In the end, you get the cleanest, greenest, healthiest carpet cleaning available. Call us at 848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it backward or forward. It's the right way to clean.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
Music is a bridge between the material and the spiritual. My name is Harvey Lauer, and I'm 82. As a blind person, you have to be aware that nobody can tell you what you can or can't do. You really have to try things. My folks got me a little radio in 1940, and that was the best Christmas present I ever got. When I was 11 years old is when I started to play music, play the piano, and then the accordion, and then the cello. My wife, who was also blind, was a good cook. When she died, that's when I started Meals on Wheels. America, let's do lunch.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Bring it? Oh, it's already been brought in. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we're back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show live on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network. Also streaming on YouTube and Facebook, on Twitter at Devil Radio. And the phone text line, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, a lot of big show ahead. Matt Flynn coming down to the studio next. You will interview him at 4:05. John Weishan, the Milwaukee County Supervisor, pushing the legalized Wisconsin referendum in the happy hour. And right now we've got Andrew Seidel, Director of Strategic Response, Freedom from Religion Foundation. He's stuck around. Thank you for doing so, Andrew. Got to ask
you,
this morning, I asked you, and you've been so kind as to stick around and take a different topic with me. Voucher schools. I've asked you, and the question that struck me, because I had heard it asserted, and I always like to be around smart people like you, sir. I heard it asserted that the constitutionality of paying effectively, as we, the taxpayers, paying for people to go to, let's call it church-run choice schools, was not decided law. Now, Andrew, correct me, because I don't think I've got it exactly right, and you've got clarity for me.
Sure. There are actually many different iterations of what we would think of as vouchers. Everything from education savings accounts, which the Nevada Supreme Court just struck down in that state, to the traditional vouchers that we think of where, you get a voucher from the state to go to a private school, 99% of which would be religious. And courts have come down on a number of these programs in varying ways. The best thing to do is go to FFRF's website and go to our legal tab and look up on our voucher FAQ, because that goes over each and every one of the programs. But the simple answer is that courts have basically said is if there is genuine parental or familial choice, if the parent actually gets to make a choice on their own about where to send the student, then the program is probably okay constitutionally, even if taxpayer funds are going to a religious school. Now, that at FFRF, we believe that is a bad decision and incorrect, but that's the way the courts have come down. It's incorrect for a number of different reasons that I'd be happy to go over.
Well, give me one or two.
Well, I mean, so for instance, the first is that vouchers take money out of the public schools and they inevitably give it to religious schools. I said 99%. That's actually low. In the Wisconsin Parental Choice Program, 100% of the schools are religious schools. So there's not really legitimate choice there. And then one of the other issues, vouchers, if you have listened to the other side on this, they say, vouchers are going to rescue these students from failing public schools. But when statewide vouchers were implemented in Wisconsin, 75% of the voucher recipients were already attending a private school. So it was just subsidizing those kids that already were in the private school curriculums. So it doesn't actually do what they say it's going to do. And probably one of the bigger ones is if you're a taxpayer, vouchers lack all accountability. There is no way for us as citizens to check on voucher schools. We have no say in how they're run. At public schools, they're managed democratically. You have elected school boards that can assert public oversight. You can go to a meeting as a citizen and make a stink if there's something wrong. Nothing like that for the voucher schools. And in Milwaukee, which is the longest-running voucher school program in the country, there was more than $139 million in taxpayer money over a 10-year period that went to voucher schools, which were eventually removed from the program because they failed to meet requirements relating to financing, accreditation, or even student safety. Not giving kids enough food for the day, not giving kids a place where they can go outside and play, not keeping students safe, for instance, from fire. So it's a very, very dangerous thing to take public money and just give it to whoever has their hand out.
Andrew, these organizations have gotten very good at the messaging. And the messaging, it sounds like a great deal for all of us taxpayers. And who doesn't want choice for their kids? But you told me, and this actually came as news to me, Andrew, the vocabulary wasn't always as polished. What did they used to tell people that these vouchers were about?
Yeah, so school choice, that's the palatable term. But for many of these activists, vouchers and school choice programs are actually about ending public education. So in the minds of many of the activists, the rise of non-religion that we're seeing today and the erosion of traditional Protestantism in the country is due to the public schools. They actually blame the godless public schools. Now, before they got their messaging down, they were actually open about their goal of ending public education. There was a guy named Kyle Olson who actually helped create and chaired National School Choice Week through its 2011 birth. And when he was the executive director, he wrote this. He was very clear about it. He said, quote, "I would like to think that, yes, Jesus would destroy the public education temple and save the children from despair and a hopeless future." So before they got savvy, they were open about their attempt to destroy the public schools. They're trying to defund the public schools and put that money into religious schools. That's what this is really about.
And
Don't
Andrew,
be fooled by the terminology.
Andrew Seidel, Director of Strategic Response Freedom from Religion Foundation, when we hear about the Betsy DeVos-led organizations like American Federation for Children and the $5 million they've expended here in the state of Wisconsin, now we had Justin Morales in studio from AFC, their state director. And when he describes it, it sounds all very nice. But what he seemingly doesn't want to acknowledge is the massive amount of dollars that come and buy or at least encourage state lawmakers, primarily Republicans here in the state of Wisconsin. This is big business on some level, isn't it, Andrew?
It is big business on some level, and not just for the lawmakers, but for these schools. You know, one of the problems with these schools is they'll start up and they'll take all this public money in, and then they'll actually shut down midterm. And we've actually seen this happen a number of times in Milwaukee. Kids will go to school and the doors will be chained, and this turns out all the people running the school moved to Florida and started another one to take Florida money instead.
Andrew Seidel, Director of Strategic Response Freedom from Religion Foundation. If people want to know more about your organization, how can they find you on the webs?
FFRF.org, and we hope everybody will join. We need all the support we can get right now.
I didn't even get around to asking your opinion on Trump and the evangelicals, but thank you so much, Andrew. Come back in the 4 o'clock hour. Our friend Matt Flynn with my little buddy Dominic. I'll step out. Come right back.
My name's Fred, and I'm just a man, same as you are.
You're not a man, you're a bishop, for God's sakes!
There is no God.
The only election I've ever won was Milwaukee's Best Local Entrepreneur 2017. I'm not your typical politician, but I'd like to be the next governor of the state of Wisconsin. I've acted as a fiduciary for my clients for the last decade, putting their needs before my own. I will do the same for you. Red and blue, R's and D's, we all do business with each other on Main Street. We're all Badgers. It's time we started acting like it. This message paid for by Crute for Wisconsin. Find us at cruteforwisconsin.com.
Hi, I'm Anton Capella, Chief Technology Officer at Five Nines. Five Nines is more than just our name. It's the level of service you can expect. We provide 99.999% uptime. That's the highest availability and performance you can get. You have enough to worry about with your business data, web, security, and cloud services, so we'll manage your IT so you don't have to. Visit 59s.com. That's the number 5NINES.com.
I'm Andy Buck, and I'm proud to be union.
Tell me about the underground economy.
Well, the underground economy is essentially workers being exploited, and they're being exploited all over the state. They're working for no benefits, no retirement, and if you don't join your brothers and sisters, you don't respect your craft.
Andy, why should I hire union?
Crudy, you should hire union because you want the job done right the first time. We represent the highest skilled, safety-trained workers in the industries that we represent. Glazers, painters, and drywall finishers. Join us. Painters and Allied Trades, District Council 7.
The Devil's Advocates.
James Santel, he's a former U.S. attorney. He's our guest live on Brady.
Once again, a pleasure to be with you, gentlemen, to talk about the latest news breaking as we speak.
The FBI raided Michael Cohen, Trump's personal attorney, but once they got there, then they went back and got a more thorough warrant and said, we'll take everything.
My first reaction is you need to teach criminal constitutional law. You've got it just right in terms of the process.
They are kind of a big deal.
This is a really big deal.
You are listening to 1510 AM WRRD Waukesha, Milwaukee, and 1580 AM WTTN Columbus, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network.
Wrap it up. Confused mission. I'm Michael Toscano. The vice president raising his profile today by coming to the defense of his boss, President Trump. Caitlin Collins reporting from the White House.
Vice President Mike Pence calling for the end of Robert Mueller's Russia investigation for the first time.
I would very respectfully encourage the special counsel and his team to bring their work to completion.
In a parade of interviews, Pence making clear he wants to keep the focus off the president's scandals at home and on his potential achievements abroad.
President Trump found a way to communicate in terms, I believe, that Kim Jong-un could finally hear. He could hear that this president was serious.
President Trump today announcing his meeting with Kim Jong-un will take place June 12th in Singapore. The Pentagon has issued its final report on the ambush in Niger last fall that killed 4 U.S. service members. Washington State Democrat Denny Heck of the House Intelligence Committee says there was one central flaw.
The heart of this thing was a confusion as to what the mission was. If there had been a uniform, clearly understood mission that had a higher level of support and intelligence support, then I think we might have had a different outcome.
Heck says we need to honor the fallen soldiers by implementing the lessons learned by their deaths. Hawaii Governor David Ige is invoking emergency powers to help deal with the Kilauea volcano eruption. One allows him to take any action necessary to protect the community from hazardous chemicals stored at a geothermal plant. Workers are already moving flammable fuel out of that plant. This as residents of the Big Island are bracing for a possible sizable eruption predicted for the coming weeks. New cases of E. coli affected romaine lettuce now from Arizona reported in Florida, Minnesota, North Dakota, and Texas. The Dow Jones Industrial Average finished trading up this afternoon with a rise of 197 points, now up 0.8% for the year. I'm Michael Toscano.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling on it.
The dad joke. Corny, groan-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
What did the buffalo say when he dropped his son off at school? Bye, son.
So take a moment to make your kid laugh, because dad jokes rule. Make your kid laugh today. Go to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
So journalism students are taught that dog bites man doesn't make news, man bites dog makes news. But in this story from Fort Dodge, Iowa, dog shoots man. It must be news because Jan Johnson's explaining it.
51-year-old Richard Remy says his dog, Baloo, didn't mean to shoot him, but he told police some horseplay got out of hand. While wrestling around on the couch, Remy says he tossed Baloo onto the floor. Baloo bounded right back up and onto Remy's torso, somehow disabling the safety and stomping on the trigger of a gun tucked into Remy's belly band. The gun fired. Remy was wounded in the leg and spent a few hours at the hospital, later telling the Messenger newspaper that Baloo is a big wuss who lay down beside him and cried because he thought he'd done something wrong. I'm Jan Johnson.
Poor puppy. One game on the NHL Stanley Cup playoff slate tonight. The conference semifinals finish up as the Predators host the Jets in the deciding Game 7. I'm Michael Toscano.
Juice, Mom. Juice, juice, juice.
Mommy, why are we going to the store?
Mom, I want juice.
Mom.
Juice, juice, juice.
Mom.
Your child will have different needs at different stages of life, and that includes the car seat. See, car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Protect your child's future at every stage of life. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat.
A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
It's a lot easier to measure how many times students use a semicolon correctly in an essay.
Educated educators talking education.
Than it is to measure how many wonderful ideas are in that essay.
Busted Pencils.
There is no teacher shortage.
With Dr. Tim Slecker.
There is a teacher exit.
Featuring Matt Damon's mom.
You want to know what my mom would say?
We've had an intrusion into education.
Busted Pencils Radio. Saturdays at 11 on Resistance Radio.
For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, my name is Keith Gostad. Milwaukee is the only Midwestern city making a bid for the 2020 Democratic National Convention. Other cities responding to the DNC request proposal are Atlanta, Birmingham, Houston, Denver, Miami Beach, New York, and San Francisco. Event facilities, transportation, and hotel accommodations are among the areas that will be analyzed in the selection process. Harley-Davidson is banning news media from its annual shareholders meeting. In previous years, the meeting has been on a Saturday, whereas this year it is on a Thursday, and in past, riders tended to show up for the event as well as union workers who would voice concerns about production and labor relations. The Brewers lost to Cincinnati yesterday 6-2. They pick up tonight in Colorado against the Rockies at 7:40. Highs today in the mid-60s with cloudy skies, overnight lows around 40 degrees. Friday high in the mid-40s with chance of rain. For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, my name is Keith Gostad.
The following program is a presentation of DC Communications, LLC. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
And welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, Hour 2. Have a guest in studio with us. He is Matt Flynn. He's a Democratic gubernatorial candidate for the state of Wisconsin. Matt, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates.
Good to be here. Thanks very much, Dom.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming in. Matt, a lot of hoopla around your candidacy here of late. Our guest earlier in the day, Sarah Pearson, she's the state co-chair for the Women's March of Wisconsin, and Peter Isley works with the Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests. They are taking exception to your work with the Milwaukee Archdiocese, and the article written in the Wisconsin Gazette, very critical of your work. Wanted to start from your background and from your perspective, Matt. How did you get involved with the Milwaukee Archdiocese to start with?
Well, I was a lawyer with Quarles and Brady, I think one of the finest law firms in the state for my entire career. Practiced law there for 40 years. And Quarles and Brady represented the Archdiocese of Milwaukee since at least the early 60s. And so in about 1989, the lawyer that represented the Archdiocese in our firm, Mike Bolger, who's a very eminent lawyer and went on to be the president of the Medical College of Wisconsin, left. The Archdiocese asked me to take over the representation, and I did.
And what was the situation at the time? Were lawsuits and were the allegations of abuse by the priest, was that in full swing? What did you get into?
Well, when you represent something like the Archdiocese of Milwaukee, we also represent the Episcopal Diocese, a number of other denominations. You do all their work pretty much, and so litigation was just a very small part of it. But in the late 80s, this terrible scandal in the church, this terrible problem of these victimized victims, that it was a terrible thing, was starting to come to public consciousness around the country, and I think it took a while for everybody in the country to realize how horrible and how widespread it was. So it was just beginning to start then when I represented the Archdiocese.
Some of the reporting in the Wisconsin Gazette, again, pretty critical of you. Peter Isley said you had a scorched earth policy. One of the women quoted in the article said you filed a lien against their property even after knowing that the priest had in fact abused her sexually. How do you respond to those? Is the reporting in the Wisconsin Gazette, let's start there, is it accurate to your opinion?
The story in the Wisconsin Gazette is untrue. And I just want to start out by saying this. I have the deepest compassion for what these victims went through. I went to Catholic school for 12 years, and it easily could have been any one of my friends. And it was a terrible and disgusting thing that happened. But I want to stress something. If you're a victim, and these victims suffered, any deposition will be seen as intrusive, any deposition. But if a civil lawsuit is brought for damages and the idea is to get rid of the priest, and the Archdiocese did get rid of priests and paid damages, you can't not have a deposition to find out the facts. So in every case, I treated the victims with the utmost respect and courtesy and compassion, and also had as few depositions of as few people as possible in the shortest time possible to still get at the facts, to make sure that we knew we had a basis for compensation, and in some cases to get rid of the priest. And so the characterization certainly was her perception of it, and I fully understand that any deposition is terribly intrusive to somebody in such a sensitive matter.
This particular person quoted said that you were brutal to her. Her name's Susan in the article, saying that she was confused. Did you take that tact with the victims at all? Did you push back on their assertions, even knowing perhaps that the priest who was involved in the case was in fact guilty of the acts claimed?
None of that is true, and I don't want to second guess the subjective interpretation of someone who's suffering. So this is not intended as a criticism of her. And by the way, these names are pseudonyms, and they should be. They're not the real names, and the real names should not be disclosed. But in a deposition, you ask questions, and you do not accuse anybody of anything. You don't say anything to anybody that's at all discourteous. You're simply asking questions. And when people are giving depositions, it can be, they may not like it may be uncomfortable. I try to make this as compassionate as possible, but obviously this person, and I can fully understand why, thought that any inquiry was somehow wrong or intrusive, and that, of course, I can't help.
This person also claims that essentially you would subpoena or try to interview anybody that she spoke with. Did you take that tact legally as well? Any conversations with the victims, families, or even children? Did you go after and try to get information from them regarding the abuse?
That is, it's not true to say that anybody she ever contacted or anything of that nature. In a civil lawsuit, I took as few as possible, but you do take more than one deposition. So if somebody says something occurred and the priest denies it or somebody else denies it, if there's another witness who was there at the time, absolutely you take their deposition. You do it compassionately. And so I think that subjectively, and I totally understand it because of the horrible nature of what occurred, any inquiry into the facts is deemed an intrusion, and we did it as gently as possible and in a limited fashion as possible.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network. Matt Flynn, he's a Democrat. He's running for governor in the state of Wisconsin. He joins me in the studio. Matt, after the release of the video and a statement by Sarah Pearson from Women's March of Wisconsin, you put out your own presser. And in that, you say that you believe you may have different, and you believe you made a difference, and that you do not know of any recurrences in the Milwaukee Archdiocese since serving time as their attorney. Are you aware of any, any abuse, by the priests that were transferred outside of the Archdiocese? Did that occur, and do you know about it?
No. Well, the answer is no. And before I answer that, you also asked about liens before, and I think that's important for me. I don't want to.
Sure.
So
we'll start with that one.
If you don't mind. Mm-hmm. What Susan is referring to is this, that most of the cases settle, but in a lawsuit, when it goes, the prevailing party has costs taxed and is included in the judgment. I gave strict statutory attorney's fees of $100. But it wasn't taxed. In two cases, in all of them, I understood afterwards that mistakenly costs were included on the judgment of dismissal. In one of those cases, the person called, or the lawyer called, and I immediately informed the court that had been an error and that they would not be, and they would be satisfied. And I think perhaps in her case, of what she's referring to, is that was not brought to my attention. That was an error that occurred in that case one time, and that was not the intent of the Archdiocese. With regard to, and I'm sorry, your second question was,
that in your press release that you said you did not know of any recurrence in the Milwaukee Archdiocese since your time serving as the attorney. My question to you was, of any of the priests that were transferred out then, I understand your point about the Archdiocese, but yes, priests left. Are you aware of the abuse that happened, or did abuse happen upon their leaving at other facilities?
I stopped representing the Archdiocese in 2004, so I haven't represented them in 14 years. And I am aware of no recurrence after 2004. There were allegations before then of people who had been transferred outside or left and went outside of the Archdiocese who did offend. That was the nature of the claim. And that was precisely, armed with that information, why we put into effect very rigid controls that people would be turned into the police immediately, suspended from ministry, and thrown out of the priesthood.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Matt Flynn, a Wisconsin gubernatorial candidate, is in studio with me. We're talking about his work as chief legal counsel for the Milwaukee Archdiocese. Some activists are wanting him to resign or pull out of this race. We'll come back. You got some time, Matt? Stick around for some more questions?
I sure do.
All right, come back with us, Devil's Advocates on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, 1510 AM Milwaukee, 1580 AM Columbus and Madison. We'll be right back. Scott Walker thinks Wisconsin should once again hire him as governor.
You wouldn't hire me to be a neurosurgeon.
This is a person who has not worked in the private sector since 1993.
You wouldn't hire me to run condos. You wouldn't hire me to run HP.
And has made his political career.
You probably wouldn't hire me to run the United States Senate.
By using divisive tactics to the benefit of his corporate donors.
The first step is we're going to deal with collective bargaining for all public employee unions. Because you divide and conquer.
Now he supports the largest publicly funded government subsidy of a foreign corporation in American history.
You know, they can go suck lemons.
And Scott Walker has yet to live up to his first campaign promise to create 250,000 jobs.
Is this a campaign promise, something you want to be held to?
Absolutely.
Scott Walker, we the people are done sucking your lemons. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org. I was on Zero Res Madison's Facebook page the other day, and they have almost 2,000 testimonials from local customers. Apparently, I am not the only one stoked on how cool this company is. A green technology that actually works better and doesn't cost more. It's a no-brainer. I'm in. We are starting our own Devil's Advocates revolution to free your carpets from harsh chemicals and soaps. Call Zero Res today and ask for the Diamond Crude Special 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Hey folks, sexy liberal Stephanie Miller here. Most new Wisconsin jobs are in Dane County, it's true. Some of my listeners are relocating to Madison. Many already commute there. When asked where to turn for a trusted real estate team that understands Madison, I say the same thing. Solidarity Realty. They help you through the process and protect your consumer rights. They live their values, building community, promoting sustainability and diversity. Find them today at solidarityrealty.com and tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
Hello, I'm Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters Local 200. In 1903, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters was founded, and our local union was founded in 1935 here in Milwaukee. During the last 115 years, the principles and values for the Teamsters Union have made many improvements for working families, creating a pathway to the American middle class. Teamsters have assisted families and communities in times of need. Currently, our active and retired membership are collectively working to benefit working families across this nation for retirement security and addressing long-term social needs here in Madison, Wisconsin, and in Washington, D.C. American workers do have a voice in the workplace. Let Teamsters Local 200 be part of that action plan for you. For more information, please visit us on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or give us a call at 414-771-6363. TeamstersLocal200.com or 414-771-6363.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
150 over 90, and I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure sounds like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from silent.
Get back on your treatment plan or talk with your doctor to create a plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
Head to toe, everything's changed.
Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
My Congresswoman Gwen Moore.
I think that you guys are filling a very important space. I think African Americans consume radio at a very high rate. And they really rely on radio for information. And so, word of warning to all those candidates out there, don't ignore these inexpensive ways to advertise.
Well, wait until we get our FM. They're going to get more expensive all the time.
Radio for the 99%. When they go low, we get high. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network. We still have our guest of the hour, Matt Flynn. He's a Democratic gubernatorial candidate here in the state of Wisconsin. Matt, thanks for sticking around.
Good to be here.
I want to continue on this discussion of your representation of the Archdiocese of Milwaukee. Again, some people took some issue with the way that you represented that organization, and of course, you're pushing back on that. Wanted to address some of the reporting here in the Wisconsin Gazette, and this was something that kind of jumped out at me. And I've heard this before, and I want to get your position and clarity on this. Apparently, internal policies at the Archdiocese was that abuse was to be reported to law enforcement only after it was approved by you. Is that accurate, Matt?
That is false. I urged, and it was the position or the procedure in the Archdiocese once we put these rules into effect. Priests are mandatory reporters, teachers are mandatory reporters, therapists are mandatory reporters. And when there was an allegation, after I had worked with others to put these into effect, it's reported directly to the police. It didn't require my approval or anybody else's approval. People were ordered to report it to the police.
So, why weren't there more criminal prosecutions? Was it simply because of the statute of limitations on this? It seems like there should be hundreds of priests in jail, and my assumption is, based on the stuff I've read, that doesn't seem to be the case.
Well, first of all, I think it's important to just put this and get the real truth out here. When you say hundreds of priests in jail, hundreds of priests in Wisconsin is an absurd amount of people that, as you're describing. The vast majority of priests are very good people who work very hard, serve people, and sacrifice their lives really for other people. There were priests who'd committed horrible, terrible crimes. I don't know the number off the top around the state. But when it's reported to the police and they take it right to the district attorney, that's up to the elected district attorney to determine prosecution. That can include statute of limitations. It can include a lot of things. But in my view, these are horrible crimes and they should all be prosecuted. But I'm not the district attorney, but I am a lawyer who urged very strongly and required in these procedures we put into effect that there be immediate reporting to the police.
The number 170, according to court records from the testimony of Archbishop Rembert Weekland, who himself was removed as Archbishop after a $400,000 secret payment the Archdiocese made. So at least 170, and as these things go, Matt, there's probably a whole lot more. With regards to the statute of limitations, another thing that came to light during this, you argued before the Wisconsin Supreme Court on the civil cases, and apparently you won. The civil cases were dropped. What is it about that case? Why did you take the position that you did, that these civil cases could not go forward somehow based on religious freedom and the First Amendment? Can you explain that case a little bit for us, please?
Yeah, that characterization of it is false. Obviously, there's no religious freedom and no First Amendment protection against criminal behavior. Period. End of story. That is I think, a lurid way. I'm not sure where people got that idea. I think you may be referring to the Pritzloff case, and I've argued a number of cases over the years for a lot of people in Wisconsin Supreme Court and their appellate courts, and that particular case centered around, what if the Archdiocese doesn't know that somebody's a bad priest, okay? In other words, No employer is responsible 24/7 for the conduct of their employees if they have no reason to believe that something's going to happen. They don't go to their homes at night to check them out and make sure, so to say that is something, that's a good statement. The employer, once the employer knows that the employee is a bad person, has done something, they have a heightened duty to supervise. But what employer in any business is supposed to keep tabs 24 hours a day on all their employees? They're not. So the way that's been characterized by people incorrectly is that somehow this is a First Amendment issue. It's not a First Amendment issue at all. What it really is if an employee, in this case a priest, is not, there's no indication that they're going to do anything, what is the responsibility of the employer? That's a very legitimate thing. The Wisconsin Supreme Court, which had Republicans and Democrats and great judges on it, came down the way they did. I didn't come down the way they did. I argued the case. They came down the way they did, and I believe they reached the correct decision.
Matt, the headline from Matt DeFore in the Wisconsin State Journal says that you told those critics to go jump in the lake. That aside, given your efforts for the Milwaukee Archdiocese, do you have any regrets? Would you have done anything differently in your representation today, knowing what you know now?
Well, two things. Let me address the jump in the lake. First of all, I'm sure I could have phrased it better, but that is a phrase I use frequently when people ask me about Act 10, which I'm going to repeal, and what if the Republicans push back? I said they can jump in the lake. I'm going to do this. In this case, that has been incorrectly and untruthfully represented as something about victims. What it was there are a handful of people who have relied on that Gazette article, which has untrue information, to suggest I withdraw based on something that's false. And my view is that my work as a lawyer or as anything else is a legitimate subject of discussion, but allegations based on false information is not legitimate. And so I said that people who are relying on that, and especially the people that put out the false information, can jump in the lake. But I agree that it's something I say a lot, and maybe I'll confine it to Act 10 from now on, Foxconn.
Matt Flynn, is there anything else you want? We got one more minute left here. Is there anything you want to share with the voters of the state of Wisconsin regarding this issue, or anything else on your mind?
I'll tell you this. What happened to the victims was horrible, and it's something I've internalized, and I can't begin to tell you the pain that it's caused not just me, but nowhere near what it caused the victims. And all I can say is the thing I'm proudest in all of my legal work over the years was working to put into effect procedures so that it will never happen again. There'll be no more transfers. There'll be no more anything. And the minute there's an allegation, it's reported to the police, and from them to the district attorney, and there's full cooperation by the Archdiocese going forward. And I am, priests are yanked out and thrown out of the priesthood. And that's the way it should be. There are many, many good priests, but we will not tolerate crimes. And I, least of all, will tolerate any crimes. And as governor, I would extend the statute of limitations, and I will do many things which, based on my personal knowledge, I know can be done to protect children in this state.
Matt Flynn, a Democratic Wisconsin gubernatorial candidate. Thank you for joining us today and talking about this, Matt.
Thank you very much.
We are the Devil's Advocates. We'll be right back.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
The Resistance is live 7 days a week here on 1510 AM WRRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. Tune in Sundays for Meet the Press with Chuck Todd from 11 a.m. to noon. Then it's the Jeff Santos Show, kicking ass for the middle class from 12 to 3 p.m. And Citizen Action's Battleground Wisconsin rages from 3 to 4 p.m. Get your groove on with Stu Man PM, politics and music, 4 to 6 p.m. with Stu Daniels. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
The bridge is out, and there are scat holes everywhere. Come on. What's wrong with you? Listen to Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network.
If you're like a lot of companies, you know you need IT, but you aren't sure where to start. That's where Five Nines comes in. Hi, I'm Todd Stryker, President and CEO. For almost 15 years, Five Nines has been providing IT solutions to companies just like yours. We'll show you the solutions that are right for your business and give you the roadmap to success in the future. Find us at fivenines.com. That's the number 5nines.com.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in the former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
Hi, I'm Becky with Bounce Milwaukee, a progressive, local, family-owned entertainment center. We just want to remind you what it's like to be a kid again. Come on in for all ages fun. Bounce in our giant inflatables, race up the rock wall, dominate your friends in laser tag, or just relax in our bar or our massage chairs. Open 6 days a week with extended adult-only weekend hours. Find us at bouncemilwaukee.com.
I'm Mike Crute. Once elected governor of the great state of Wisconsin, I intend to legalize marijuana. Legalization will create $200 million in new annual tax revenues to be applied to opioid treatment and tech school education. Medical professionals like Dr. Sanjay Gupta say marijuana legalization would reduce opioid overdoses and help treat addicts, help move Wisconsin forward with legalization, taxation, and regulation. Good people do smoke marijuana. Paid for by Crute for Wisconsin. Find us at cruteforwisconsin.com.
For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, my name is Keith Gostad. Senator Lena Taylor says her removal from the Joint Finance Committee was a political lynching, saying, quote, "I do not believe I did anything that warrants taking me off finance." An employee filed a complaint in July of 2017 alleging that Taylor bullied her and others retaliated against her. Taylor has also been under fire for alleged use of a racial slur at a Chase bank. Taylor was told on April 26th letter to attend an anti-bullying and interpersonal communication training sessions by Senate Chief Clerk Jeff Renk and Human Resources Manager Amanda Jorgensen. Tornadoes touched down yesterday afternoon near Richfield in Washington County, and in Grant County, officials said a damage path was nearly a mile and a half long. No one was injured. Highs today in the mid-60s with cloudy skies, overnight lows around 40 degrees. Friday high in the mid-40s with a chance of rain. For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, my name is Keith Gostad.
Charged, never convicted. Dom and Crute are the devil's advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. I'd like to thank Dominic's last big guest, Matt Flynn, Wisconsin gubernatorial candidate on the Democratic side. I told him a profane joke after he left the studio.
That's so not acceptable.
He laughed.
Well, funny is funny.
Well, it wasn't in a business setting with 20 or more business leaders.
20?
Ish. 20-ish. I wasn't at the event yesterday. Not invited. Hey, Dominic, well, you've been on the air.
I've been working here, man. What have you been doing?
I've been reading the newspaper. Do you see the newest from Nurse Ratched?
I did, and I got to give a heads up. Got an email from fan Brian. Sent me an email with a link to, I think it was a Think Progress piece, referring to Nurse Ratched, putting what? Tammy Baldwin up on a picture next to some terrorists?
Oh, she's up again.
Oh, come on.
Journal Sentinel Online, Bill Glauber writes, Leah Buchmer stands by her news release picturing Tammy Baldwin as a member of Team Terrorists.
Aren't you ashamed?
And the picture, well, I'll read the article.
Yeah, all right.
I'll get us started anyways. Leah Buchmer isn't backing down.
Will not back down.
From a news release issued this week by her campaign that labeled Democratic U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin as a member of Team Terrorists.
What?
Team Terrorists, plural. You know, like she's one of the terrorists.
She's one of them, yes.
The news release included pictures of Buchmer and CIA Director nominee Gina Haspel as members of Team America. They're the good ones. She is associating herself, Buchmer, Nurse Ratched, if you will, purposefully associating herself with the torture lady. The one that would torture these supposed terrorists.
Yes, the CIA nomination.
You know, so that makes her on Team America. While Baldwin was labeled a member of Team Terrorist, Baldwin's photo was paired with an image of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, principal architect of the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. I'm sure that's completely fair.
What, she couldn't find an old picture of Adolf Hitler to throw her next to?
Buchmer, running for the Republican nomination for U.S. Senate, supports the Haspel nomination. I hope she does. Mohammed had asked for permission to share information about Haspel with the Senate Intelligence Committee. In a statement Thursday to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, Buchmer said, when the 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed attacks Gina Haspel, an eminently qualified woman who would be an excellent and historic choice to lead the CIA, Senator Baldwin is nowhere to be found. If this is what it takes to get people talking about Tammy Baldwin's liberal record and her tendency to disappear and not represent us, then so be it. State Democratic spokesman Brad Bainum dismissed the categorization of Baldwin.
This is nonsense, he said. This is what people hate about politics. Curdy, the conservative outlet Right Wisconsin, harshly criticized the image, calling the attack an irresponsible campaign blunder.
Naughty girl, Nurse Ratched.
Buchmer and Delafield businessman Kevin Nicholson are bidding to win a key endorsement from delegates at Saturday's Republican Party convention in Milwaukee. Oh, now it all makes sense. The pressure is up now. She's got to make a stand.
Turn up the heat.
Be strong.
Fahrenheit 451.
Both have vowed to press on to the August 14th primary with the winner to take on Baldwin in November. Republican U.S. Senator Ron Johnson counseled both campaigns to keep an eye on the prize, beating Baldwin. Johnson told the Journal-Sentinel that if it becomes pretty obvious that one of the candidates is the clear choice and will probably win the primary, he hoped that the other candidate would have the integrity to step aside so the other person would have a much better chance to win. Factors Buchmer and Nicholson should weigh, he said, including fundraising, cash on hand, and whether either candidate gains 60% support of the convention delegates this weekend. If it becomes kind of apparent that one candidate has the far better chance, I'm just hoping that the other candidate will understand this isn't about an individual. This is about Wisconsin having another Republican senator, he said. Johnson, who gained the party endorsement in 2010, said this: is there a history of us winning after a knockdown, drag-out primary? Probably not.
Yeah, just go ask Tommy Thompson, right?
Right.
Or maybe Eric Hodby. So what say you? Team Terrorist. Which team are you on, Dom?
Which side are you on?
Are you on with the CIA waterboarding, the waterboarder? I'm trying to think of the term. Torture. Are you on Team Torture, or Team Terrorist?
Well, I guess I'd have to be honest here. If I had to choose, I'd have to be on Team Torture, man. I don't want to be on Team Terrorist. I want to be on that side. A campaign blunder, an irresponsible campaign blunder. You know, blunder. When I started agreeing with Right Wisconsin, what's this world coming to?
You know, if my choice is to stand with Gina Haspel and Nurse Ratched, Leah Buchmer, or to stand with Tammy Baldwin and Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, can I do some sort of average? Because I'm going to have to stand with Team Terrorist. I'm going to be over in Tammy's column.
Oh, man.
When you take the evil and kind of cost average it across the two on each side, I would still rather stand with Tammy Baldwin than
ultimately isn't torture
Leah Buchmer or the torture lady.
Isn't torture just another form of terrorism?
Well, if they did bad stuff to us anywhere in the world, then we should do really, really bad stuff to them, Dom. That gives us the high moral ground, don't you know?
What moral ground? I mean, moral ground depends on what orders you were given in any particular moment and what that person's morals are.
I saw that Dick Cheney, apparently, about the Gina Haspel
He's still alive?
He's on like his 7th heart. He's like Darth Vader. Anyways, I saw that he thinks we should have, a rendition black site ready, up and running at any time, just in case you need to torture someone.
You just never know, Crudy. You never know. I mean, we should probably have some stateside. Why we got to have them all over the world? Oh, that's right. That's probably not allowed here. That's why we do them in...
It's not allowed there either. Have you heard of the Geneva Convention? It's not like this was undecided law. This whole torture thing.
No. Didn't the Bush administration get some memo from an attorney that said it was
Gonzalez?
okay? It's okay.
Alberto Gonzalez.
It's all okay.
And didn't they all go run into Tom Ridge's bedside to go get that little memo renewed? And who stopped him at the gates? James Comey.
Yeah, Comey did.
You got to keep it all straight. All that's old is new again.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Should we have a call-in, torture or terrorism? Which side are you on?
Well, I mean, if it is a binary choice between standing with Tammy Baldwin and Khalid Sheikh Mohammed or standing with Gina Haspel and Leah Vukmir, that's still a really tough choice for me, Don.
This is what it comes down to.
Can it be both?
That's why.
I mean, because
that's why people hate politics.
To my perception, torture is terrorism.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Sure. Torturism spawns more terrorism. I mean, this is a god-awful decision made on behalf of the United States. Decided law. I mean, people were put to death for torture during World War II. We did that to others. And now we being the Bush administration, Dick Cheney, Gina Haspel, somehow find some rationalization.
Not now. That was then. Not now. She said she testified. Not now. She wouldn't go back to that. It's a different moral time now.
How so? Cheney's on the Chiron today.
I can't believe he's still alive.
He's got a good heart. He's got a big heart, that one. He's like the Tin Man of former vice presidents. Yeah. Just keep putting a new heart in there.
Let's take a break.
You need a break. You've been under pressure.
Under pressure. Yes, under pressure. Folks, give us a call. Let us know your thoughts. 844-967-2789. I'm curious to know, torture or terrorism? Mark, you stick around. We'll get your calls next. 844-967-2789.
How about Vukmir and Haspel or Baldwin and Khalid Sheikh Mohammed? There's no wrong choice here. Come back with us. Devil's Advocates, Wisconsin's only resistance radio network. Tweet us out at Devil Radio. I mean, hell, some call you satanic.
Why? I don't believe in God.
You're a devil advocate. And you throw the horns.
That's rock and roll, baby.
Some don't understand that.
Yeah, oh well.
They've never been to a Ronnie James Dio concert.
I cannot make your ignorance any better. Look it up. It's a charm, man. It's rock and roll.
My ignorance? Well, you're thinking of Nurse Ratched, Leah Vukmir.
Those who do not understand throwing the horns.
Come back with, don't make me give you the horns. More Devil's Advocates on the other side.
Aren't you ashamed?
I would bring back waterboarding, and I'd bring back a hell of a lot worse than waterboarding.
Patients aren't allowed in the nurse's station.
I don't believe that torture works.
I'm afraid right now for the future of my children's generation and those to come.
In this age of mass school shootings, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker offers the same bold agenda of the National Rifle Association.
Make sure you remember in your thoughts and more importantly in your prayers.
While Walker offers platitudes, he blocks meaningful gun safety legislation.
It's really an honor to work with the NRA, not only in my state, but across the country. And I'm proud of my A+ ranking as a governor.
Walker weakened the gun laws in Wisconsin, and then he got $3.5 million worth of NRA support.
There have been men and women of courage who've been willing to stand up and think more about the future of their children and their grandchildren than they thought about their own futures.
Scott Walker, you are not one of them. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
My name is Adam Holmes, and I'm proud to be union.
Adam, you're Director of Training for Painters District Council 7. What do you do?
I'm making sure that we're investing in our members. We're providing the safest and best trained painters, glazers, drywall finishers, and trade show workers in the industry, and we also do that at no cost to the taxpayers.
Why hire unions?
Because it costs less to be safe. We keep the contractor on the right side of OSHA and help keep the workmen's comp rates affordable. Join us, Painters and Allied Trades, District Council 7.
Josh Call, the candidate for Wisconsin Attorney General.
Do you think voter ID had a suppressive effect, not on 100 voters, but on thousands of voters and perhaps tipped the election to Donald Trump?
This is an issue that came up at our trial. And first of all, I should thank you guys because we actually introduced into evidence the recording of you interviewing Dale Schultz, who was talking about the passage of the voter ID law. That was one of our pieces of evidence.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
Hi, this is Brad Saug, owner of Zero Res Madison Carpet Cleaning. Zero Res is the best new technology in carpet cleaning. We have a patented process using empowered water, a high-tech process in which we force the water to act like soap. It doesn't want to stay in that state. It's jacked up and it's angry and it wants to hit the dirt and then it neutralizes. When we're done, all that's left in your carpet is just light moisture. In the end, you get the cleanest, greenest, healthiest carpet cleaning available. Call us at 848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it backward or forward. It's the right way to clean.
Hey folks, sexy liberal Stephanie Miller here. Most new Wisconsin jobs are in Dane County, it's true. Some of my listeners are relocating to Madison. Many already commute there. When asked where to turn for a trusted real estate team that understands Madison, I say the same thing. Solidarity Realty. They help you through the process and protect your consumer rights. They live their values, building community, promoting sustainability and diversity. Find them today at solidarityrealty.com and tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
Do you love public education? Do you want to support your schools? Then you should support the people who make them work. You should support teachers and their unions. Teachers' working conditions are students' learning conditions, and when the school bell rings, it is crucial that teachers do not check their rights at the door. The ability to organize and advocate around issues that improve the quality of a teacher's workplace will increase opportunities for students and make schools safer for everyone. Stand with teachers, stand with WEAC Region 7.
Hello, it's me, the designer jeans in the back of your closet. What happened to us? I used to summer in the Hamptons, and now I'm stuck behind a pair of sweats. Okay, maybe I never really fit you right, but I got a lot more Sunday fun days left in me. So take me to Goodwill, where I can really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to goodwill.org. Donate stuff. Create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
The big and tall of political talk. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show live on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, streaming on YouTube and Facebook, on Twitter at Devil Radio, and the phone lines. You can text there to 844-967-2789.
Dominic, we're going to talk about Legalize Wisconsin, a referendum right here on the ballot in Milwaukee, or at least we'd like to see it. John Weishan, he is the Milwaukee County Supervisor. He joins us in studio in the happy hour. That's coming soon, but lots of callers backing up. Let's get to them.
Mark, you're up. Thanks for calling. Happy days, man. What do you got for us?
Hey, Mark.
Happy days is an interesting way of putting it with this particular ad. I'm on Team George Washington, who actually ordered people prisoners not to be tortured when we took prisoners during the Revolutionary War, because the British were famous and the Hessians were famous for torturing prisoners when they captured them. I mean, for Leah Vukmir to do this thing, it's just disgusting. Tammy Baldwin is actually standing for something here. Principle that that at least officially the United States did not endorse torture prior to 9/11. When Bush went out and got John Yoo and Jay Bybee to come up with a memo to supposedly make this legal.
Mark, you know what Leah calls those? The good old days.
Well, that's just it. I mean, that I realize there's some of those folks out there that get excited. And the only way they get excited is when they can watch a video of somebody being waterboarded or worse. I mean, what does Trump want to dig out the equipment from that old Vincent Price movie, The Pit and the Pendulum, and put people there in the pit with the pendulum swinging over their head? I mean, Trump actually said he wants to do worse. I mean, I don't think Donald Trump even had heard of Gina Haskell until it came up and somebody said, "Hey, this lady right here, she believes in torture." And Trump probably said okay with that because he wants to see people tortured. I mean, it just is. I mean, Vukmir, it must be a sign that she is really desperate to do this kind of thing because it is just something that supposedly a conservative should be against. I mean, a conservative should actually believe in American values, and this is just torture is just not in any way consistent with American values.
I agree with you, Mark, but what do I know? 844-967-2789, Libertarian Dom. Torture them all! That's his theory.
No.
Let God sort them out.
Who? What? Gary from Sussex, you're up. What's your thought today, sir?
Hey, guys. I've called like 3 times so far to talk to you guys. I'm a Republican conservative, born-again Christian, gun-toting NRA guy.
And we still appreciate your call, Gary. What do you think, man?
Well, thank you for taking my call. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know what? If somebody kidnapped one of my kids and I knew that someone knew something about it, I would do way more than just waterboarding that would leave no marks. I would torture them by doing whatever I had to do to get my kids back.
And what makes you think that torturing them or doing what you had to do would give to you reliable, accurate information about their whereabouts, sir? Because everything I read says when you torture someone, they'll say damn near anything to get you to stop torturing them. It's not an effective interrogation method, Gary. That's everything I read.
This is what I would do. If they kidnap my kids or something like that, I'd take them up north, put them in a cabin, get them to talk, leave them there, have somebody watch them, go out there and figure out what's going on. That's what I would do, whatever it takes. Now, after 9/11, we did waterboarding, which left no marks. Yes, it's like drowning you and then reviving you again. Yeah, it's bad.
Torture according to the Geneva Convention, Gary. I mean, we've got an international law against torture.
I understand that, and I don't like torturing myself, but the fact of the matter is, if we can save a lot of lives, if they went out there and killed 3,000 of our people and we could torture somebody to go find bin Laden and go out there and take him out, yeah, I'm all for that. Whatever it takes. But torturing, waterboarding, enhanced interrogation is nothing like what they do to our citizens by cutting their heads off and tying their arms behind their back and throwing them over buildings. And then if they happen to survive, then pick them up and throw them again, like some of the stuff that they do. It's, waterboarding doesn't leave any marks. No, I'm all for it 100%.
Well, Gary, let me ask you. We tortured Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. I think he was waterboarded something approaching 100 times. It did not produce Osama bin Laden for some number of years. And as far as I know, there's no evidence that any torture led to intelligence, actable intelligence that led to the capture of Osama bin Laden. So if it's not a reliable means of information, I mean, I get that sense of I want justice. If it was my kid, we all want justice.
Of course, yes.
But your ability to go torture someone up north there, hey, in the cabin, is not legal. If someone kills Dom on the street, and pray to God it never happens.
Thanks.
But if someone did, I don't have the right to go and kill them on the street. That's not... That's
vigilantism.
That's vengeance. That is whatever. But torture is how do we take the high moral ground? And I know some don't care about taking the high moral ground, but when you don't, when you are not the shining example, when we are just as bad, when we're just as awful as the terrorists, don't we create more terrorists?
844-967-2789. Scott from Whitewater, you're next. What do you think?
Give me a little breath here. So to respond to our gun-toting Christian, the problem is when he takes that guy up north to torture him, the guy's going to send him wherever he thinks he wants to hear, and maybe that's not where his kids are at because he doesn't know. That's why you don't torture people just for the fun of it, because they'll give you any information.
False confessions, whatever it takes.
Pain.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that's what educated, intelligent, intellectual moral people understand. But, I mean, they've got a little different belief system because they believe in Trump and they believe in all that kind of thing. They believe
come on, man. No God-fearing Christian believes in Donald Trump, Scott. I mean, that's no real Christian. If you embrace Trumpism,
they
you are not a Christian.
So, at any rate, I just wanted to say that Senator Baldwin has the easiest commercial. She just needs to bring some B-roll of John McCain during his military days, coming back from being tortured and meeting with the president at the time and all the great things he did, and say, look, Leah Buchmer thinks this guy's a terrorist because he doesn't approve of the CIA director nominee.
I'm not sure that Leah Buchmer would not have that attitude about John McCain. She wants the Trump endorsement. Trump has been disinvited. Go ahead, man. Let's get one more opinion in quick.
Let's get one more. Nick from Humboldt County, you have 60 seconds. Nick, thanks for calling. What do you think today?
Okay, I'll wrap it up. Here's the deal, guys. I've noticed this is a conservative mindset, okay? Remember during the Bush years when this torture was going on, they referred to it as enhanced techniques or whatever. They came up with some phony name. But basically it was torture. And we put people to death for doing the same damn thing after World War II. So, okay, what's going on here? The country's kind of gone a little lopsided. But it's kind of weird that this conservative mindset is, remember that 24 had some episodes that like Bush thought were real or something.
Thanks for the call, Nick.
Hey, Nick, sorry to cut you short. We got a fine guest. He joins us live in studio for the happy hour. Time to legalize Wisconsin. Let's put it on the ballot. John Weishan, he is a Milwaukee County Supervisor. He's our fine guest next.
The president in no way, form, or fashion has ever promoted or encouraged violence.
So if you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously.
Have you outgrown your house? Are you sick of apartment living? Not ready to buy but know you need to move? Hi, folks. This is Tom Hartman for CCL Management in Middleton. You should consider moving up to one of the finer rental homes CCL Management represents. Unique houses and condos, always clean, most are pet-friendly. Visit cclmanagement.com today to find your new home. CCL Management, Dane County's premier leasing and property management company.
Call CCL Management at 833-0009.
And distinguished in funeral packages starting at $1,995 with a 20-gauge metal casket included. Title 19, Milwaukee County General Assistance accepted. Call today, 414-444-8300.
For too long now, Wisconsin's education policy seems to have had that the teacher had to step out for a minute vibe. Educators Amplified is back in session this Saturday. Join us for Educators Amplified, the gubernatorial edition. Where will our next governor stand on teacher demoralization, standardized testing, vouchers and charters, standards and licensing? These questions will be answered this Saturday from noon to 3 at the Miramar Theater. Come join us live, 2884 North Oakland Ave, or listen right here on 1510 AM Resistance Radio. Educators Amplified, gubernatorial edition, brought to you by Busted Pencils Radio, the Earl Ingram Show, Schools and Communities United, WEAC Region 7, Citizens Action, AFT Local 212. So if you're tired of education in this state having that the teacher will be back in a minute vibe, take action this Saturday. Educators Amplified, right here on 1510 AM Resistance Radio.
You are listening to 1510 AM WRRD Waukesha, Milwaukee, and
Pence appeal, date set. I'm Barbara Cusack. For the first time, Vice President Mike Pence urged Special Counsel Robert Mueller to bring his Russian election meddling investigation to an end. Democrat Eric Swalwell, a House Intelligence Committee member, sees things differently.
He is conducting an MRI of the president's businesses, his campaign, and his family members. And I think what he's going to find is what we found in the limited investigation that we had, which was deep personal, political, and financial ties to the Russians.
The date and place has been set for President Trump's historic summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Correspondent Bob Costantini fills us in.
We will both try to make it a very special moment for world peace. President Trump tweets in announcing his anticipated meeting with Kim Jong-un will take place in Singapore on June 12. It's a logical follow-up declaration on the heels of a welcome return for 3 Korean Americans held captive by the North.
The Pentagon's report on the ambush of Green Berets in Niger last year that left 4 service members dead details the mission's deficiencies. Major General Roger Cloutier, who led the investigation, gave this assessment.
Had the first mission been properly characterized, it would have been required to be approved at a higher level. And by being approved at a higher level, it would have received more oversight from the chain of command. And that higher level chain of command would have decided what resources were required to support the mission.
A dam swollen by weeks of seasonal rains burst into Kenya's Rift Valley, sweeping away hundreds of homes and sending people fleeing. At least 44 people were killed, another 40 missing. Villagers said it started with a loud rumble, then houses collapsed one by one as a wall of water descended on the area. The oldest living person in the U.S. has died at the age of 114. A Pennsylvania funeral home said Delphine Gibson died yesterday. She attributed her long life to good food, her faith in God, and her church. I'm Barbara Cusack.
Listen and imagine. It takes 5 seconds to send a text, and for those 5 seconds, you're driving blind. Life is worth more than a text. Stay alive. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hey everybody, I'm Daryl Ingram of News Talk 1510 WRRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, and I am the Director of Advertising and Marketing. The pride of our independent stands runs deep in all that we do here at the station. The thing that I know for sure is that you can count on the quality and independent production of client advertising, mirroring the quality and independence of our fine programming here at News Talk 1510. To learn more, contact me at 414-335-0851 or via email at daryl@newstalk1510am.com.
Equifax now admits some passport images were stolen in last year's massive security breach.
Equifax denied it before, but now the company that tracks just about every adult American's credit history says 3,200 passport images were stolen by hackers last year. A letter sent by lawyers representing Equifax was sent to the Senate Banking Committee as an update on the theft of other information belonging to 148 million individuals. I'm Jan Johnson.
Top 2 teams in the NHL finished their second-round series tonight in Nashville as the Predators host the Winnipeg Jets. The winner will meet the Vegas Golden Knights in the Western Conference Finals starting Saturday. Well, it just may turn into a new fad for those who can do it. A Massachusetts college student ran one of the fastest miles while juggling, or call it joggling. Zach Prescott ran a 4-minute, 43.2-second mile on Tuesday, juggling 3 lacrosse balls. I'm Barbara Cusack.
Excuse me, I know you have a 9 o'clock, so I'll keep this short. I'm the business suit in the back of your closet. You wore me nearly every day before your office went, quote, casual. Nada. Nothing. Don't you remember the McKittrick presentation? You spilled coffee on me, and I still looked amazing during the breakout talkback Q&A. So, I think it's time for me to move on. I've got a great resume, and I absolutely crush it in interviews, okay? Let's make this a clean break. Shift the paradigm. The only thing I ask is that you think outside the box here and do this. Take me to Goodwill, where I can really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create new jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to goodwill.org. Donate stuff. Create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, my name is Keith Gostad. Milwaukee is the only Midwestern city making a bid for the 2020 Democratic National Convention. Other cities responding to the DNC request proposal are Atlanta, Birmingham, Houston, Denver, Miami Beach, New York, and San Francisco. Event facilities, transportation, and hotel accommodations are among the areas that will be analyzed in the selection process. Harley-Davidson is banning news media from its annual shareholders meeting. In previous years, the meeting has been on a Saturday, whereas this year it is on a Thursday. and in past, rioters tended to show up for the event as well as union workers who would voice concerns about production and labor relations. The Brewers lost to Cincinnati yesterday 6-2. They pick up tonight in Colorado against the Rockies at 7:40. Highs today in the mid-60s with cloudy skies, overnight lows around 40 degrees. Friday high in the mid-40s with chance of rain. For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, my name is Keith Gosted.
The following program is a presentation of DC Communications, LLC. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, sliding into the 5 o'clock happy hour, and we're happy. We've been joined by a fine guest live in studio on Brady Street, John Weishan. He is a Milwaukee County Supervisor, and he is pushing to get legalize Wisconsin, legalize marijuana, legalize cannabis on the Milwaukee ballot by referendum. John, welcome to the show. Did I get your name something close to correct?
Yes, no, that's fine.
Thanks, John.
How are you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for coming down.
Sure.
So, John, my little buddy Dominic joined you and many others. Where was that? Dom, why don't you tell
Milwaukee
the
County
story?
Courthouse. And this is what a resolution that you put forward here in Milwaukee County to get this on the ballot. Now, this is not a binding referendum, correct?
That's correct. What we did is put forward a referendum question. It's a non-binding. So, unfortunately, we don't have the power to have a binding referendum. So this turns out to be more of a public opinion poll. But it is important because Milwaukee County represents about 20% of the state's population. So we're hoping that if we get a good turnout and a good vote come November, that maybe the state in Madison will wake up and actually move forward on some type of legalization.
John, what was the step this morning? What happened at the meeting? I understand a number of nice people went and gave testimony. What was the step that happened this morning at 9 to 10-ish?
Right. What we had is our Judiciary, Safety, and General Services Committee. Sounds wonderful committee. Got to thank Chairman Staskunis for his support today.
Thank goodness he's not here. I'd struggle with that.
Yeah. Right. But what we did is they had the public testimony. It's the part of the process where the community gets to come down and speak their thoughts on whatever issues before the committee. And today was the referendum question.
Now, John, if you had to characterize the testimony, was there one side more or less in favor, against? How did the testimony break down roughly?
Well, it was roughly about 99-1. There was just one person who spoke against, and everyone else had a multiple range of different reasons why they supported it, whether it was the decriminalization aspect of it, whether it was the medical part of it, or just your libertarian rights to do what you please.
And that sounds like you, Dom.
Well, the one fellow who did stand up and vote against it, I guess, did not support it, didn't address the marijuana, the plant at all. Really, his position was that the state of Wisconsin, the government should not be in the business or be in government and in controlling what we do with our bodies and what we consume with our bodies, period. And a referendum like this, I guess in some ways, validates the state's role in that. He did not address marijuana at all. He was more against the process than anything else. And if I were to take a bet, I think he'd be for marijuana.
So, John, successful today.
Yes, we were. A unanimous decision by the committee, 5-0 vote. And so now the next step is on to the county board, the full board, 18 county supervisors.
Now, today did not go off without a little bit of drama. One of the, I believe she.
What'd you do, Dominic?
I did testify, but one of the conservative board members, Deanna Alexander, put forth an amendment that apparently you didn't know about. Nobody knew that she was doing. She created this amendment during the testimony, and what she wanted to try to do was sneak this in the primary, the August primary, and not have it on the ballot for the November election.
Right, and Deanna, of course, is a hardcore right-wing Republican, card-carrying member of the loony bin, and
no, what do you really think, John?
Well, it is what it is, and what it is they're afraid that it will actually get people to go out and vote for the cause come November, and the last thing they want is intelligent people going to the polls and expressing their views during the governor's election.
They'd rather have a motivated population during the primary than during the actual election when the turnout would really matter, probably against them.
Well, partisan primaries, it wouldn't matter a hill of beans because whoever's coming out for Dems or Republicans are going to come out regardless of the question. One would think it would have more impact. I've, in fact, advocated for both legalizing marijuana, but more importantly, as a political process, John, I've advocated for putting this referendum here in Milwaukee. I mean, I think it should be on other communities' ballots as well. This is good, sound, democratic politics. We want this issue on the November ballot. This is a issue that will turn out young voters, especially young males. At least that's my contention, sir.
Well, there are women, as was pointed out today, that also partake. And also there are small business owners that would like to, grow their business and do it legally and provide, medication for people. So it's just not, one side of it of people sitting in their backyard, having a smoke. There's a huge economic impact and a small business impact.
Well, John, I have no doubt. John Weishan, Milwaukee County Supervisor, he moved through committee today an effort to put a referendum on legalized Wisconsin on the Milwaukee ballot in November, it sounds like.
Yes.
So, John, what's next step? How are we all the way to the finish line, or we still got more steps?
Nope, we got actually 2 steps left, and that is on May 24th, Thursday coming up, is the full county board meeting. The board will vote on that, and then it has to be signed by the county executive. And once those 2 steps are completed, then it will be on the ballot come November 8th.
Now, John, let me play devil's advocate for a minute. How much money does polling, because this non-binding referendum really has, we can't force anything. So how much money, because some Republicans are going to say, it's the money, it's going to cost too much money, we can't even have special elections, they cost money. John, how much money does this add to the cost of holding this election?
It adds about $15,000 approximately to the cost of printing the ballots, increased paper, increased ink. But that would be the same if we added, like you said, any other question to the ballot, any other office to the ballot to be voted on.
John, can we save some money if we printed the ballots on hemp paper?
Good luck.
It might be advantageous in the future to try that, and another reason to vote yes come November.
John, were you surprised at the unanimous vote of 5-0 in committee today? My understanding, at least to Deanna Alexander, the conservative, there was at least one other conservative on that panel. Is that correct?
Yes, there's a couple people you would put in the conservative aisle on stuff, and they did express some reservations. But I think it goes to the power of the testimony that the people came in and really made an impact today, and they were able to win the day and win the vote.
Well, especially my testimony, John.
Yeah, I'm sure you compelled whatever righties were holding out. Well, that long-haired hippie-looking guy says it. It must be true. Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. We are the greatest radio show ever. I said it. It must be true. We got John Weishan, Milwaukee County Supervisor, in our Brady Street studios. Now, John, we teased you before we went on the air. You do not partake as an adult. You don't civilly disobey the prohibition. You don't smoke marijuana, do you, John?
No, I don't.
And the question I ask you is, do you want to? John,
I can say in my youth I did, but not anymore.
John, what do you think about adults, quote unquote, responsible adults, those with jobs, with kids, with responsibilities? I know from personal experience, good people do smoke marijuana, John. They live amongst us. Some work right beside us. John, what's your thought process on those that would disobey the current laws on the books?
Well, unfortunately, it takes us back, generations. You have to go to Prohibition. There's a large portion of the population that wants to, do a certain activity, and I think it, sometimes an act of personal rebellion is okay if you want to, do something in your own confines of your home and not bother anybody else. Why not?
John, what about the financial aspects? I've seen even the Walker Department of Financial, LFB, I think, Legislative Financial Bureau, Fiscal Bureau, had to issue an answer to a question posed by Melissa Sargent. Melissa Sargent, as a legislative piece, has proposed full recreational legalization, regulation, and taxation. Even according to the Walker administration's very, very conservative estimate, $135 million per year in new annualized revenue. If we look to Colorado, with a very similar population to the state of Wisconsin, there's no reason for me to believe we would generate less than $200 million a year in new tax revenues. If it comes down to solving some of our financial problems, I think we've got cuts happening here at NPS. We've got Scott holes all over the roads. I mean, hell, we've got this ongoing 25-year liability to a foreign corporation. John, we need the dues, do we not?
Right, and when you do the breakdown in population, it's roughly about $50 million that could come towards Milwaukee County, or at least be derived out of Milwaukee County. Hopefully, we would get a decent slice of that in the tax revenue. So it definitely would be a benefit to the citizens of Milwaukee County, along with the development of small businesses along the way and the people that they would employ.
John, I spoke with Gretchen Schult from the Wisconsin Justice Initiative Action. She gave testimony shortly after you spoke today, and she had some information here. Marijuana possession second offense felony scorecard, and this is dated April 28th, from 2015 to 2016. 95 people received second offense felony possession charges. 86% of them were black, 4% were white, and the majority of them were north of I-94. And I don't see it on the stat, but Gretchen also testified that not one single woman was convicted of a second offense felony. Obviously, there's societal and judicial implications for this as well. I just want to get your take on that.
Well, that's one of the main reasons why I think legalizations is important, is because of the bias in the criminal justice system. And what we'd like to see is those that have been convicted in the past of offenses like this, that would be expunged from their record, because it really doesn't make sense to keep people in prison for doing something that is legal.
John, are you a Dem?
Yes, I belong to the Democratic Party.
Can you stick around? John Weishan, a Milwaukee County Supervisor, is a Democratic vet. I got a couple questions above and beyond the marijuana question. We are the Devil's Advocates. You are listening to the Wisconsin Resistance Radio Network, 1510 AM Waukesha, Milwaukee, 1580 AM Columbus, Madison. We'll be right back with John Weishan.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Man, do I love card night. You ready, boys? You got a king?
Go, fish dad!
Oh, come on. This is WWE superstar Titus O'Neil. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
For too long now, Wisconsin's education policy seems to have had that the teacher had to step out for a minute vibe. Educators Amplified is back in session this Saturday. Join us for Educators Amplified, the gubernatorial edition. Where will our next governor stand on teacher demoralization, standardized testing, vouchers and charters, standards and licensing? These questions will be answered this Saturday from noon to 3 at the Miramar Theater. Come join us live, 2884 North Oakland Ave, or listen right here on 1510 AM Resistance Radio. Educators Amplified, gubernatorial edition, brought to you by Busted Pencils Radio, the Earl Ingram Show, Schools and Communities United, WEAC Region 7, Citizens Action, AFT Local 212. So if you're tired of education in this state having that the teacher will be back in a minute vibe, take action this Saturday. Educators Amplify right here on 1510 AM Resistance Radio.
Whoa, long time no see. It's me, the rock t-shirt in the back of your closet. Dude, remember? You crowd surfed in me, man. But you haven't worn me in like forever. I get it, you're retired, but I still got some rock left in me. So take me to Goodwill, where I can really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to goodwill.org. Donate stuff. Create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
On marijuana, unfortunately, as a public health issue and a public safety issue, I've opposed that.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta, how can medical marijuana help those addicted to opioids?
There's three big things. There's clear consensus now that cannabis can treat pain. That is not an opinion. That is a consensus conclusion by big scientific bodies like the National Academy of Science. We also know that it can help treat the withdrawal symptoms of opioids. People, they don't want to be on them anymore. They want to quit, but they develop the terrible withdrawal symptoms. And now we have evidence that it can actually help heal the part of the brain that is diseased in someone who's an opioid addict. If you had to start from scratch and design a substance to help lead us out of the opioid epidemic, like in a lab, it would probably look very much like cannabis.
Call Governor Scott Walker at 608-266-1212. Tell him good people do smoke marijuana. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org. I was on Zero Res Madison's Facebook page the other day, and they have almost 2,000 testimonials from local customers. Apparently, I'm not the only one stoked on how cool this company is. A green technology that actually works better and doesn't cost more. It's a no-brainer. I'm in. We are starting our own Devil's Advocates revolution to free your carpets from harsh chemicals and soaps. Call Zero Res today and ask for the Diamond Crude Special 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Live via phone, he is former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel.
Firing Bob Mueller doesn't mean that the prosecution, the investigation goes away. Pardoning one individual does not mean that you undo everything that has been done before. So this notion that somehow by shutting down and by pardoning and by sort of stopping the process, you're also stopping the wheels of justice is simply, again, it's simply wrong.
The Devil's Advocates, weekday afternoons on 1510 AM, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
The Devil's Advocates. Rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show live on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. You can call us at 844-967-2789.
This doesn't sound like stoner music. Don, we got a fine guest. He's still here with us on Brady. He is John Weishan. Went with the more Germanic pronunciation. Hope you like that one better. He is a Milwaukee County Supervisor. And, John, I teased you as we went to break, but you are a veteran of the Marine Corps, much like Kevin Nicholson, and yet you remain a Dem. What sort of brain damage did you have in your service, sir?
Well, no, I'm doing fine. Things are all cognitively, functioning, and everything's going together. It's unfortunate that he, kind of made that comment and has that point of view.
As someone that was a veteran, what's your thought about waterboarding or worse, torture, sir?
Well, we know, and everybody knows it doesn't work, and it's not something that meets the standards of anyone who believes in the Geneva Convention and wants to be a true soldier, true Marine, and live up to your code of ethics.
John, I joined the Army, not quite as good as the Marine Corps, but I joined 8 days after Iraq invaded Kuwait. I count myself quite fortunate that during the course of my training, that short-lived first Persian Gulf War effectively ended. I was stationed back in Wisconsin. But John, if I got sent to a war zone and I was captured, I certainly wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of waterboarding. For those that would advocate such a position, do you think that's short-sighted? Do you think they forget sometimes American soldiers get captured too?
Well, there is, and they can use that as an excuse to say, well, the bad guys do it too. But once again, it's what standard do we hold ourselves to, and what level of honor do you want to conduct yourself? And like I said, it doesn't work. We've had many of POWs that have endured torture, and they didn't give the information that was requested of them, and it just is not something that Americans should stand for.
Well, John, I'm sorry to be all heavy on you, man. I don't mean to be. Let's get back to the marijuana subject. Yeah. Let's lighten it up a little bit, get it a little higher in here. Here's my question. For Republicans, you said those pushing back on this referendum to consider legalization on the Milwaukee County ballot, in many cases, they use religion. They push back, or at least that's what you expressed. Can you expound upon that point, sir?
Well, some of the comments that I've received on the negative side are the people who want to continue to believe the mythology that's out there that is pushed by some of the extreme right religious people, that to be part of legalization means you're in league with the cartels. You want to
devil's cabbage and all that sort of stuff.
Right. You want to subvert our society, and it's part of some liberal worldwide conspiracy to undercut America and democracy.
John, do you think that Republicans realize there's a thriving black market for marijuana right here in Milwaukee, all across the state of Wisconsin? We just should start capturing our portion of the revenue?
Well, I think it goes back to, what kind of thinking do you want to apply here? And it's not very contrarian. It's, what works. We know that if you want to, have a thriving black market run by criminals, prohibit it. We went through prohibition for alcohol. We know how it turns out. We know what 40 years of the drug war has produced. There's a lot of billionaires in Mexico and Central America right now because of the drug war. And there's a lot of people, that need help here instead.
John Weishan, Milwaukee County Supervisor, thank you so much for coming down. Thank you for pushing this referendum, and hopefully it will be on the ballot this November. John, thanks for what you do. Thanks for coming down, man.
Well, thanks a lot, and let's not forget about May 24th at 9:30 a.m.
That's Should people come down?
Yes, they can always sit in the gallery, and it never hurts you can't say anything, but bring a sign.
Smoke them if you got them.
Smoking lamps lit. Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Good luck. We're all counting on you.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
I got to tell you, so when I first moved to Green Bay to play football in '92, I had never been to Wisconsin. But the funniest thing I thought, you could not buy hamburger patties without a dollop of butter on them.
Folks, just so you know, if you take a little bit of herb butter and put it in the middle of a patty and just kind of mold it around there, you get magic.
I have one of my arteries right now.
How much did you say you weighed?
I'm gaining weight with my thoughts right now.
You're $3 bills and some change already, brother.
Guns, Butter, Economics.
414 Wisconsin, weekdays 2 to 3 p.m. on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
Hey, everybody. Did you know that Scott Walker spelled backwards is Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network? I know, I was amazed too.
Businesses today thrive and survive with technology.
At Five Nines, we provide businesses with the IT tools they need to stay relevant. We offer enterprise-level solutions at competitive prices. I'm Todd Stryker, President and CEO of Five Nines. Let us manage your IT so you can focus on more important things, like running your business. Check us out at 5nines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
Hello, I'm Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters Local 200. In 1903, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters was founded, and our local union was founded in 1935 here in Milwaukee. During the last 115 years, the principles and values for the Teamsters Union have made many improvements for working families, creating a pathway to the American middle class. Teamsters have assisted families and communities in times of need. Currently, our active and retired membership are collectively working to benefit working families across this nation for retirement security and addressing long-term social needs here in Madison, Wisconsin, and in Washington, D.C. American workers do have a voice in the workplace. Let Teamsters Local 200 be part of that action plan for you. For more information, please visit us on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or give us a call at 414-771-6363. Teamsterslocal200.com or 414-771-6363.
Hi, I'm Becky with Bounce Milwaukee, a progressive, local, family-owned entertainment center. We just want to remind you what it's like to be a kid again. Come on in for all ages fun. Bounce in our giant inflatables, race up the rock wall, dominate your friends in laser tag, or just relax in our bar or our massage chairs. Open 6 days a week with extended adult-only weekend hours. Find us at bouncemilwaukee.com.
For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, my name is Keith Gostad. Senator Lena Taylor says her removal from the Joint Finance Committee was a political lynching, saying, quote, "I do not believe I did anything that warrants taking me off finance." An employee filed a complaint in July of 2017 alleging that Taylor bullied her and others retaliated against her. Taylor has also been under fire for alleged use of a racial slur at a Chase bank. Taylor was told on April 26th letter to attend anti-bullying and interpersonal communication training sessions by Senate Chief Clerk Jeff Renk and Human Resources Manager Amanda Jorgensen. Tornadoes touched down yesterday afternoon near Richfield in Washington County, and in Grant County, officials said a damage path was nearly 1.5 miles long. No one was injured. Highs today in the mid-60s with cloudy skies, overnight lows around 40 degrees. Friday high in the mid-40s with a chance of rain. For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, my name is Keith Gostad.
Ass, grass, or cash, nobody rides for free. Dom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Another fine guest. Man, you stacked her up on me today, Tom.
Ooh, busy, man. How does this keep happening?
We're just the coolest. John Weishan, a pretty cool guy in his own right, Milwaukee County Supervisor. He is putting, or endeavoring to put, a Wisconsin legalized marijuana question on advisory referendum on the November ballot. He could still use your help. May 24th, 9:30 a.m. Go sit in the gallery. Go encourage the Milwaukee County Board to move forward in an affirmative fashion.
Do it.
Put legalized Wisconsin on the ballot. Tom, you gave testimony, big shot.
I did. I showed up today, and I was just going to record a little bit, get a feel for what was going on and get down here and get some
And
work
you
done.
wanted to get insights into what it's like to be Donald Trump, soon to be deposed?
Well, I didn't. They didn't ask me any questions.
You weren't under oath, were you?
No. But we do have some sound of it. It's only 3 minutes, so bear with us. Here was my testimony today. Let's get legal marijuana on the ballot here in Milwaukee County. Fancy Brian.
I'm going to judge you. You better have done a great job.
It's the best job, if you would. Morning, thank you. I'm a member of the media. I do a radio show here in Milwaukee. A couple of weeks ago, I had the opportunity to interview Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who's apparently come around on this issue from his stances in 2013. I'm happy to see he's come around to my side of this. What he said based on the research is 3 things, what he told me. Number 1, cannabis helps with pain, period. No question, that's fact. Number 2, cannabis helps with the withdrawal symptoms from opioid addiction. And number 3, studies have shown, according to Dr. Sanjay Gupta, that cannabis can actually help heal part of the brain physically damaged by the opioid abuse. Obviously, opioid addiction has been in the news a lot recently. This is something that can help. Beyond that, the tax revenue derived from the legalization, regulation, and taxation of legalized cannabis can be up to the hundreds of millions. In the last 5 years, I've traveled to Colorado several times, British Columbia. It's legal there. It's a hell of a feeling to be able to walk around and not feel like you're being persecuted for having a harmless plant in your pocket. Comparing cannabis to nicotine or alcohol, there is no question. What is more dangerous? There is no question that the persecution of those using cannabis has had a negative impact on this country. If you are not for legal cannabis, if you are against legal cannabis, you are for the disparate judicial outcomes for our African American and brown brothers and sisters. If you are not for legal cannabis, you are for the continued harm of people with serious health problems who simply want to do what they can to relieve themselves without having to go to a pharmaceutical outfit to get their drugs. A friend of mine from college several years ago OD'd on opioids. People can drink themselves to death. Nicotine's health effects and cost to our health system is outrageous. Cannabis has none of these things, yet it remains illegal. A Schedule I drug. So I would certainly agree that this should be on the ballot, at a minimum. I would agree to some degree with my friend over here who says that, what is the state's role in this? The societal harm caused by other legal drugs is much greater than cannabis, yet those remain legal. So I would suggest certainly put this on the ballot. I would also suggest that each one of you become an advocate for legalization of marijuana in this country. It's time for everybody to grow up, realize what the facts are, and start living life as adults. Thank you.
Woo!
Now, did you add in the clap trap?
No, that was there. They were all there.
I'd give you a solid B plus A minus.
I'll take the A minus. I mean, I didn't really prepare.
You know what you forgot to say?
Good people do smoke marijuana.
You know, the announcer for the People Corporation, that guy's really good. If only that guy had spoken today at the county supervisor committee meeting.
A mic track, he could do it over and over again if he had to. But it was great. Everybody there very encouraging. Really some tough stories. People that were injured on the job, people injured in car accidents. Talk about the impacts and the problems they have in their head, mentally. Talking about the disparate outcomes of African Americans going to jail for second offense, felony possession. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. There's so many reasons why, and as far as I can tell, not one reason why it should not be legal. Again, especially when compared to what we have available to us as consumers currently.
Now, there's a fine picture of you. Matt Rothschild tagged you in a photo, dude. Right in the front row.
Yeah, man.
You with the long hair and the hippie-ish look.
Yeah, wow.
And the Resistance Radio t-shirt.
Representing,
nice.
baby. That's what I do.
Excellent job.
Theo, I think, took that picture. So, thank you for everyone that came out and everyone that testified. And hopefully this is a start of a long process that will legalize recreational marijuana here in the state of Wisconsin.
Can't be a short process, man. I can't wait. I'm down for instant gratification. Quicker gratification.
Well, certainly until we change governors, that's not going to happen. Until we get change minds and or people in the legislature, that's not going to happen. But listen, we do it on the local level, and we know the Republicans. And this is what I don't get, and what I want to try to understand, and at least perhaps convince the conservatives out there. If you're for small government, if you're for additional revenues, if you're for states' rights, how can you possibly be against the legalization of recreational marijuana? I don't buy any
checks
of it.
From the Tavern League, checks from the pharmaceutical industry. How many checks do you think they got to cash before they might come around and see things our way, Dom?
Is it just simply that? Is it that easy?
I think so. Look at opinion polling. 64% of Americans, including Republicans, a number of Republicans, I think it's well over a plurality, think that marijuana should be legal, fully recreational. When you ask the question about medicinal marijuana, the numbers are astronomically high.
Perhaps we're approaching this wrong. Perhaps we should ask those who are for the prohibition to justify their position.
Can't do so.
Justify it. Do it.
Keeping the gangs out, keeping it out of the schools, which of course is all malarkey because it doesn't accomplish any of those goals. It's kind of like in-person voter fraud. We've got no evidence of it, but we feel really strongly it's a bad thing.
At least 3 million people voted illegally for Hillary Clinton.
They all got on a bus and came up from Mexico, a bale of marijuana over each shoulder. Their calves were like cantaloupes, Tom.
Huge.
Especially the children. They had the biggest calves.
It's just so asinine. It truly is. And that's when I say, you'll be adults. Look at the facts. Stop screwing around with people's lives. Stop believing that your grandparents' tales. And stop taking the money, if that's the case. If it's so simple as to, hey, Tavern League is giving me money, Farm is giving me money, so therefore that's how I think. Well, that's so short-sighted. Represent your constituents.
Don't forget the private prison industry, CCA. Scott Walker, a recipient of their grandiose dollars,
and that's something I think we don't talk about enough.
The cops and robbers aspect.
Yeah.
A lot of money in arresting people for smoking marijuana.
A lot of money in incarceration in general.
Well, when you can use your prosecutorial discretion, white guy, you get a ticket. Black guy, you get a felony. Helps you fill up the jails, man.
This is terrible.
Keep those bunks full. Keeps the money rolling in and the campaign contributions. So if you think this is about harmful effects and that somehow the facts will sway Republicans, I'd point out the only facts that really should matter. How about the fiscal facts, the monetary facts? $200 million a year at minimum, new tax revenues. Scott Walker can't figure out how to pay for the roads.
Well, borrow. He just borrow.
Well, he won't even borrow. He'll just let the potholes sit, because people are so fed up with construction barrels, Tom.
Yes,
so let the potholes sit. Be the 49th worst state in the nation for the roads. There's a number of things that we do not have adequate revenue to fund, even Republican priorities. The $200 million, that'd go a long way. And I would point out, across the state border, it's not like marijuana is fully legalized in Minnesota. I think they have medicinal, but they got like half as many people in the prisons. When did Wisconsin become a more lawless state than the state of Minnesota? Now we are spending
when Governor
more
Walker pushed
money
through truth in sentencing.
You mean state lawmaker?
Back then, yes.
Gubernator Walker, then state legislator Walker. After taking money from CCA, the private prison industry, then he pushed through truth in sentencing, and we know he's never pardoned anyone. I don't think he's got any people on the parole board.
Has he ever gone to Lincoln Hills?
No.
No,
bad people there. The marijuana smokers. And no good people smoke marijuana, according to this governor. Not as long as he's cashing checks from everybody else that doesn't want to see marijuana legalized. But the $200 million, how are you going to ignore an annual new revenue of $200 million a year?
And I saw something.
We don't need those dues.
I saw something, or maybe there was testimony of upwards of 16,000 jobs
that were created just specifically in the marijuana industry in Colorado.
Yeah.
And you look at the $4.5 billion that we're going to expend to what? Entice a foreign corporation to come and then at some point turn their entire factory into robots. I suspect we're talking about low-wage workers, no longer skilled workers. Don't even talk about that now. Now we're talking about low-wage workers. Well, the marijuana industry, they might have some problems with banking. They might have to pay in cash, but they pay well relative to the new manufacturing jobs at Foxconn that we as a people, we as a state, each one of us is on the hook. Each taxpayer, I believe each family, perhaps, $1,700. That's a lot of weed money we're throwing down the toilet to a foreign corporation, where instead of the 13,000 maybe jobs, we'd have somewhere to 16,000, 17,000 new jobs and $1 billion in new revenue every 5 years. God, that'd be terrible. Let's keep it illegal. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Hey, thumbs up on the street. Smoke them if you got them out there. Call us if you choose. 844-967-2789.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit drinking. Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit amphetamines. Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Say, man, you got a joint?
Burn already!
Wisconsin's doing terribly. The roads are a disaster because they don't have any money to rebuild them. They're borrowing money like crazy. They projected a $1 billion surplus, and it turns out to be a deficit of $2.2 billion. The schools are a disaster. The hospitals and education is a disaster. And when I see Scott Walker with his little motorcycle and he puts his helmet on and he gets off and he makes a speech, but he's always riding like, he gets off a bike like he's a big tough guy, okay, or a little tough guy. Their lobbyists, their special interests, and their donors will start calling. They gave you $1 million to your campaign, and this one gave you $5 million, and this one, you have to do it. You know what he's going to say? Okay, I'll do it.
Mr. Trump, you're using the talking points of the Democrats, and as we all know, that
I'm using
failed
facts.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
I'm Mike Crute. Once elected governor of the great state of Wisconsin, I intend to legalize marijuana. Legalization will create $200 million in new annual tax revenues to be applied to opioid treatment and tech school education. Medical professionals like Dr. Sanjay Gupta say marijuana legalization would reduce opioid overdoses and help treat addicts, help move Wisconsin forward with legalization, taxation, and regulation. Good people do smoke marijuana. Paid for by Crute for Wisconsin. Find us at cruteforwisconsin.com.
Dad, this is fun. I didn't think I'd like kayaking.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I think it's time to head back in.
Okay. Can we come back?
Sure. Hey, be careful getting out of the boat.
It's a kayak, Dad.
I'm gonna return the kayak.
Can we walk home?
How about a taxi?
It's a short fare from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
Hi, this is Brad Saug, owner of Zero Res Madison Carpet Cleaning. Zero Res is the best new technology in carpet cleaning. We have a patented process using empowered water, a high-tech process in which we force the water to act like soap. It doesn't want to stay in that state. It's jacked up and it's angry and it wants to hit the dirt and then it neutralizes. When we're done, all that's left in your carpet is just light moisture. In the end, you get the cleanest, greenest, healthiest carpet cleaning available. Call us at 848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it backward or forward. It's the right way to clean.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property, or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009, or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
You've messed up your daughter's haircut. Do you A, get spiritual?
Mom, where's the mirror?
Beauty is within. Oh.
B, find the positives?
Less time blow drying, more time texting?
Or C, show empathy?
Mom, you really don't have to.
Twinsies!
I kinda love it. You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on adoption, visit adoptuskids.org. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
I'm State Representative Jocasta Zamaripa.
And I'm Joel Clayfish.
Listen to us on the Joel and Jocasta Show, Saturdays at 3 p.m.
She's a Latina woman from the inner city of Milwaukee, and I'm a white guy from the suburbs. Diversity in the white guy. You are not going to believe what you hear on this show. I'm telling you, you're going to have to listen. News Talk, 1510 a.m., WRRD.
Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
Women want them, men want to be them. Tom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening. Devil's Advocates radio show on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network. Last segment of the day. So if you got something to say, now's the time. 844-967-2789.
And Dominic, if people are looking for something to do on this fine evening, there is a Grow the Vote Town Hall sponsored by the Southeastern Wisconsin Normal Chapter. It will take place at the River West Public House Cooperative This evening, starting at 7 p.m., they're going to talk about some strains. There will be no samples, apparently. Boo. And then there will be 2 fine gubernatorial candidates giving speeches. My understanding, Libertarian friend Phil Anderson at 8.
Yeah?
And saving the best for last, Crudy at 8:30.
You said 2 fine. Who else is there? All right, 8 and 8:30?
8 and 8:30.
Excellent.
Although, I almost want to say Phil Anderson had to pull out of that event.
Grow the Vote Town Hall or River West Public House Co-op.
Phil, if you're driving down, let us know for sure if you'll be in attendance. I will tell you, I plan on staying. I will give a fine presentation. I will advocate because good people do smoke marijuana.
815 East Locust Street in Milwaukee, not too far from here, Crute.
Outstanding. Got some time between now and then.
Yeah.
Wonder what
What do you want to do?
Time with. Dom, let's get one more topic out there for the fine listeners. Not everyone quits this early in the day. Now, this George Will column, Dom, there are some quarter, 50 cent, and $2 words in here.
I'll let you start.
No, I was thinking you. I'll try. Donald Trump, with his feral cunning, knew the oleaginous Mike Pence, with his talent for toadyism and appetite for
obsequiousness,
could, Trump knew, become America's most repulsive public figure. And Pence, who has reached this pinnacle by dethroning his benefactor, is augmenting the public stock of useful knowledge because his is the authentic voice of today's lickspittle Republican Party. He clarifies this year's election. Vote Republican to ratify groveling as governing. I like this piece already, although I'm finding it difficult to comprehend. I'll keep reading. Last June, a Trump cabinet meeting featured testimonials offered to Dear Leader by his forelock-tugging colleagues. His chief of staff, Reince Priebus, caught the spirit of the worship service by thanking Trump for the blessing of being allowed to serve him. Though hosannas poured forth from around the table, unredeemed by even a scintilla of insincerity, Priebus was soon deprived of his blessing, as was Tom Price, before Price's ecstasy of public service was truncated because of his incontinent enthusiasm for charter flights. What's that mean? He needs to be close to a bathroom? I'm not clear. He was the Secretary of Health and Human Services who at a cabinet meeting said, I can't thank you enough for the privilege you've given me. The vice president chimed in, but saved his best riff for a December cabinet meeting when, as the Post Aaron Blake calculated, Pence praised Trump every 12 seconds for 3 minutes.
Let's just stop there just for a moment. That is such... can you get any more of a sycophant than that? And how do you praise someone every 12 seconds for 3 minutes? I mean,
why don't you try and I'll be the target?
I can't. I cannot do it.
Be worshipable.
I can't do it. I don't believe in that. Come on. Are you kidding me? Who is worth that kind of praise?
Me. But I read on. I'm deeply humbled. Judging by the number of time, I'm deeply humbled, that was a quote. Judging by the number of time Pence announces himself humbled, he might seem proud of his humility, but that is impossible because he is conspicuously devout, and pride is a sin. Between those two cabinet meetings, Pence and his retinue flew to Indiana for the purpose of walking out of an Indianapolis Colts football game, thereby demonstrating that football players kneeling during the national anthem are intolerable to someone of Pence's refined sense of right and wrong.
Yeah.
Which brings us to his Arizona salute last week of Joe Arpaio, who was sheriff of Maricopa County until 2016. Voters wearied of his act, noting that Arpaio was in the Tempe audience. Pence, oozing unctuousness from every pore, called Arpaio another favorite, professed himself honored by Arpaio's presence.
What?
And praised him as a tireless champion of the rule of law.
The rule of law.
Arpaio, a grandstanding, camera-chasing bully and a darling of the thuggish right, is also a criminal, convicted of contempt of court for ignoring a federal judge's order to desist from certain illegal law enforcement practices.
You know, rule of law.
Pence's performance occurred 8 miles from the home of Senator John McCain, who could teach Pence, or perhaps not, something about honor, Dom.
George F. Will in the Washington Post. Henry Adams.
He's a conservative, right?
He used to be. Now he's probably a Rhino, according to the Trumpians.
A Kino, conservative in name only.
Henry Adams said that the practical politics consist of it in ignoring facts. But what was the practicality in Pence's disregard of the facts about Arpaio? His pandering had no purpose beyond serving Pence's vocation, which is to integrate himself with his audience of the moment. The audience for his praise of Arpaio was given to chanting, "Build the wall!" and applauded Arpaio, who wears Trump's pardon like a boutonniere. Hoosiers, of whom Pence is one, sometimes say that although Abraham Lincoln was born in Kentucky and flourished in Illinois, he spent his formative years, December of 1816 to March of 1830, in Indiana, which he left at the age of 21. Be that as it may, by January 27th of 1830, Lincoln, then 28, delivered his first great speech to the Young Men's Lyceum in Springfield. Less than 3 months earlier, Elijah Lovejoy, an abolitionist newspaper editor in Alton, Illinois, 67 miles from Springfield, was murdered by a pro-slavery mob. Without mentioning Lovejoy, it would have been unnecessary, Lincoln lamented that throughout America, so lately famed for love of law and order, there was a mobcratic spirit among the victorious portions of the population. So let reverence for the laws become the political religion of the nation, unquote. Pence, one of evangelical Christians' favorite pin-ups, genuflects at various altars as the mobcratic spirit and the victorious portions require. It is said that one cannot blame people who applaud Arpaio and supports his rehabilitators, Trump, Pence, et al., because, well, globalization or healthcare costs or something. Actually, one must either blame them or condescend to them as lacking moral agency. Republicans silent about Pence have no such excuse.
Let me bring it to a conclusion. There will be negligible legislating by the next Congress, so ballots cast this November will be most important as validations or repudiations of the harmonizing voices of Trump, Pence, Arpaio, and the like. Trump is what he is, a floundering, inarticulate jumble of gnawing insecurities and not all that compensating vanities, which is pathetic. Pence is what he has chosen to be, which is horrifying. Sarah Pearson, Peter Isley, Andrew Seidel, Matt Flynn, John Weishan. Great guest all. Thank you so much for joining us here on The Devil's Advocates. We'll do it all again tomorrow. It's Friday. We air grievances. Come see me at the Grow the Vote Town Hall, 8:30 tonight, River West Public House.
I think the White House could have handled this better.
Hey folks, sexy liberal Stephanie Miller here. Most new Wisconsin jobs are in Dane County, it's true. Some of my listeners are relocating to Madison. Many already commute there. When asked where to turn for a trusted real estate team that understands Madison, I say the same thing. Solidarity Realty. They help you through the process and protect your consumer rights. They live their values, building community, promoting sustainability and diversity. Find them today at solidarityrealty.com and tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.